forum this week. So congratulations. Thank you everyone for being here. This is the for people online. This is the Landmarks Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5, serving the Midtown District. I welcomed everyone in the room and everyone online. My name is Kevin Frizz. I will be your chair for the meeting. We have 5 items on the agenda tonight. Many of you are familiar with the format, but I'll run through it real quick. Each applicant will start by giving their full presentation. After that, we will move on to questions only from members of the community. After questions from the board members, I'll open up the floor to members of the public. Each member of the public who wishes to comment will have up to 2 minutes. And if you are online, please use the raised hand function and we will recognize you, Chair. Once the public comment session is over, we will move to the board's business session. During business session, only members of the board are allowed to speak and discuss the issue. Following the discussion, the committee will make a motion, which will be taken to a vote by the committee. If the resolution passes, it will be presented to the full board, and the full board will then vote on the resolution that we pass here tonight. The full board vote will be on
The 13th.
Thank you, sir. November 13th, and that will be the official position of community board. Please see our website, cb5.org, for this and other updates. And with that, that takes care of all the housekeeping, so we'll get started with our first presentation, who I believe is New York City Center. You're in the room?
Hi.
Okay. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm online here. Hi, my name's Anna Killian. I work for New York City Department of Design and Construction, Office of Communication Outreach and Notification. Thank you, CB, District Manager, members, community, and public for allowing us to present tonight. The New York Chiller Replacement Project, located at 131 West 55th. We do have Nantine Puvka, the AP. Nantine, you could please introduce yourself and share the presentation. Are you all able to hear me?
Yep, he's here.
Okay, thank
We're
you.
tackling the technical screen sharing issue.
Okay.
Is there someone who's on Zoom right now who can share the screen?
Adam. Maybe Adam can share the.
Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Nandini Khan. We are the architects for the chiller replacement project at the city center. And today we are here to present the proposed louvers on the north facade, which are fresh air intake louvers related to the replacement of the chiller. We go to the next slide, please. Adam, could we go to the next? So the building is located between 55th and 56th Street. The main entrance is on 55th Street, and our project is on the north side, which is on 56th Street. It was built in the 1920s, originally as a temple, and the city acquired it in the 1940s, and it was landmarked in the 1980s. So on the right is a photograph of the adjacent building, but it shows the blind windows where we are proposing to install the fresh air intake. Next slide, please. These are some present day photographs. And on the right image, you can see that there are blind windows on the left side of the facade. Next slide, please. This is the section through the building. On the left is 55th Street, and on the right is 56th Street. You can see the main project is the replacement of the rooftop chiller, but that's not going to be visible. What we are presenting are the three fresh air intake louvers, the location of which is shown in red. Next slide. On the left is the existing dance studios on the 4th, 5th, and 6th floors. Each of the dance studios has 2 mechanical equipment rooms, one on the north and one on the south. Each of those rooms has an air handling unit that's mounted high. And the one on the south has an existing fresh air deliver, but the north air handling unit does not have. That is what we are proposing. You see in red. All right. Next slide. Here on the left is the existing facade on 56th Street. And again, you can see in red where the location of the new fresh air intake. Next slide, please. This is a detailed elevation of the blind windows that are existing on the left. And in the middle, you can see the proposed fresh air intake louver. They're about 16 inches high, and the width of the blind window, which is about 34 inches. And on the right is the section through the blind window. It's recessed, so there is also a shadow line on top, which I think would minimize this intervention. Next slide, please. So we also included a section through the 4th, 5th, and 6th floor dance studios, just to show the decorative treatment of the interior walls as well as the ceilings. On the right, you can see the location of the blind windows on the exterior relative to the interior. So from the left, that's the 4th floor, and then the 5th floor and the 6th floor, which has these vaulted ceilings as well. Next slide, please. So on the left is a detail of the product that we selected. It's a fine line louver, so also in an effort to minimize the impact. And the color of the louver will match the adjacent brick, as shown on the. Next slide, please. So to conclude, we are proposing 3 fresh air intake louvers within the existing blind windows at the top. And then we can see it in elevation on the left. There's a photograph of the existing facade in the middle, and then the section through the blind window and the louver. Next slide, please. And this is the contact information for the EDC Office of Community Outreach and Notification.
Thank you, Pooka. Do we have any questions at this time?
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions from the committee? I have, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just have one about the installation. Is it going to require any adjustment to the masonry itself to install the new louver?
Some brick will have to be removed just below the lintel that's existing. To, to make space for the louver installed.
Hypothetically, one day far in the future, if they did want to undo this, is it undoable or is this sort of a permanent adjustment to the masonry?
It is undoable. Of course, we have to match the brick if you want to put brick.
Okay. Suzanne?
Adding on to that.
Yeah.
Lovely presentation. We appreciate the handout. Would you hold on to the brick? Would the city center be hanging on to the brick that you were removing?
Yes, we want the first bricks.
Okay. Did you happen to bring a sample of the screen with you today or the paint sample so we could see it rather than just on this deck? It's something that we like to look at often here if we can.
Is it possible for us to drop it off or we don't have it?
We
with
don't,
us, unfortunately?
okay, I just wanted to know, just sometimes that's helpful to see. I live very close to this. We love the building, we all love the building, and we love our dancers, we want them to breathe. But with regards to the painting then, I think it's gonna look new. I think it's gonna, it's not gonna be aged like the patina that is a brick. So have you guys thought about, there's so many interesting things that are being done with painting in order to try to make it look more similar to the patina of the brick so that it isn't so such a dramatic difference, because it's not a big thing that you're doing and it seems very worthwhile, and I don't consider this the back of that beautiful building, but it is the back of the building. Any thoughts on the opportunity of considering using, rather than just one color, something that might lend itself to disappearing more with the variation of that old brick?
Yeah, we looked at it, there's quite a lot of variation in the brick
Yeah.
color. So we tried to pick a color which felt would work well with.
No, I see that, yeah.
Yeah, and also, the preference is not to paint it at the site because, if it's done in the factory, it's a better,
Right, I'm sure they're gonna not
Yeah.
hand paint it anyway.
yeah. So that's why we picked that color. But I guess what we could do is that we could have a mock-up and then, see how it is, if it needs adjustment.
That'd be great, yeah, I think if you got a sample maybe and brought it to the building and said, I'm
Yeah.
sure I know you do such beautiful work and you love the building and you want it to look great, and so I guess if you put it against it and said, I really like that, I think this is gonna work, or maybe we need to work on it. I know that might be something we would like you guys to consider, or me anyway, speaking for the
That's
committee.
certainly something we could, even if it's not the real louver, we could do a mock-up,
Just check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Before we finalize.
Hey, no, this is a lovely presentation. With respect to the color matching that you included here, the
A
RAL.
little louder, please.
Lovely presentation. With respect to the color matching that you point out here, the RAL 105 light ivory. The louver, will that be powder coated or will that be
Yeah,
spray
yeah,
finished?
that's what we're thinking.
Powder coat? Yeah, and do you any sense of, I see it, it's a good that you pointed out that it's in the shadow line.
Yeah,
Do you have any sense of dimension, like if half of it kind of falls within that shadow line?
Yeah.
Or so forth, because that would also perhaps darken the aesthetic, to maybe in line, not exactly, but maybe closer to
yeah,
brick.
the thing is that it's going to change,
Yeah, sure,
that's the only
yeah,
problem with.
with
Time.
the
But,
yeah,
yeah, but I do appreciate your point. I think that having that shadow line, because it's recessed,
yeah,
I think it would minimize the impact.
I think I agree. Yeah. Thank you.
I see the mention of an insect or a bird screen. Are you guys going to be utilizing that? It says it's an optional feature. Because it sounds like that would be pulled to the facade.
No, it would be inside, I think.
On the back of the louver,
Okay, so that's,
you won't see it.
okay, just so that they don't get into the louvers themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Michael?
What is the indentation of the, that whole windowless area? How far back does it go before the screens begin? How much brick on the side before you? How deep is it?
How deep is it?
Yeah.
I think Adam, I think it's about 6 or 8 inches. It's 8 inches.
It's 8 inches deep,
Yes.
so it's hidden pretty much.
Yeah, it is.
And it's gonna be the same color.
Yes,
It's gonna be parallel lines.
parallel lines, yes. Which.
I rest my case.
Henry, well done.
Hard to argue with that. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll open up to members of the public, either in the room or online. Anything online? Seeing nothing, business session. Thoughts, comments? Here,
I think the location is really logical. The fact that there's only they're recessed 8 inches, they're naturally falling in the shadow line. And they have a horizontal band to them that aligns with the brick coursing. I don't have any objection at all. And the fact that the chiller plant is not visible from the street. I have no objection.
I said, I have no objection.
great. Okay, someone want to make a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Okay,
All right, Kirsty,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Cruz,
yes.
Harris.
Yeah.
Hayback,
Yes.
Yadovich,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Patel,
Yes.
Tuckman.
Yes.
I am yes. Johnson,
Yes.
Shazazi,
Yes.
Esther,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, congratulations.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
very much.
Thank you for presenting this. I know this seems like a somewhat of a small issue, but it's always a pleasure for us to
I know.
review or see a presentation. You have such a great thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Up next, we will hear the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You've heard of it? They online?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. My name is Brett Gard. I'm the head of capital projects at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And I am here with some of my colleagues at the Met, as well as Henry Miller from Beyer Blinder Bell Architects and Planners. He's a principal there, and we'll be sharing the presentation. We will try to be fast. I know you have a large agenda tonight. And as you probably all remember, we always go to all 5 community boards surrounding the park when we make changes to either the interior of our Great Hall or the exterior of our building. And so you are our last community board. We have gone to 4 others over the past few weeks. So we're excited to be here with you tonight. And we're here to present our proposed strategy and approach for wayfinding for public signage on the exterior as well as on the interior of the Great Hall, both of which are landmarks. So in 2023, we came before you. I'm not sure if any of you were in the room to present the addition of 4 digital displays in the Great Hall. And we went through the community board process and then landmarks, and at our public hearing, the project was approved, but we got some feedback that the Great Hall had become visually noisy with signage. And we agreed with that. So it takes us a while to build alignment internally. We're a large museum. So we spent the past couple of years doing that, and we listened to the feedback. And we've been working since to establish a proposal for a wayfinding strategy that will allow us for a unified and consistent signage system on the interior and exterior for arrival. So we can go to the next slide, please. Thanks, Henry. We've been before you for many projects, and we always talk about accessibility, which is critical to our mission and critical for welcoming our visitors to the Met. We get so many different types of visitors at the museum. And we have many projects underway, including a new fully accessible entry at 83rd Street, which we also presented to you, I think, about a year ago, which was approved by Landmarks. And so we want our visitors to be able to find all of these, to be able to find them from the plaza once they get through the doors, and then once they get into the Great Hall to understand where to go for entry, exit, circulation. So the signage proposal aims to establish the system. And you'll see that the system is proliferated across the interior of the Great Hall and the exterior, but we would like it to be adaptable to the museum's needs so that we're not constantly coming before all of you every time we want to make a change to signage, because we do need to be able to adapt. So the idea is that it respects the architecture and the overall message given by the museum in terms of its structure, but that we can change things over time and also remove some of the visual clutter that we have within the Great Hall and on the exterior as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Henry.
Thanks, Brett. I'm Henry Miller. I'm a principal at Barr Blinder Bell. Happy to be here tonight and presenting this project at the Metropolitan Museum of Art to this board. And I'll move quickly, and we can plan to take some questions at the end. So the Metropolitan Museum of Art is a New York City landmark. So it was landmarked. It was designated in 1967. This is a plan that just shows the extent that was extent when it was landmarked in 1967 and the subsequent editions. The interior is also a landmark in New York City. It was designated in 1977. So the portions that are a landmark are the Great Hall at the 82nd Street entrance, and then the Grand Stair, which goes up to the European Paintings galleries. The Great Hall is certainly an iconic space for New Yorkers and for really the museum world at large. It's where people come into the museum and start their journey into the various departments in the Met, and it's critical that it's a clear point of arrival for both New Yorkers and people traveling internationally who might find themselves at the museum, so that they can understand where to go in the museum and be sorted efficiently on their way. The Great Hall is in Wing D, which is the fourth wing that was built for the museum by Richard Morris Hunt, opened in 1902. You can see that the Great Hall has seen a succession of uses, both as exhibition space, as public arrival space over the years. One condition that the Great Hall is seeing more and more is just crowds, more and more visitors to the museum, and the need to provide clear wayfinding is critical, and that wayfinding can adapt over time as the museum adapts over time is critical. So, trying to meet some of those goals that the Met has that Brett talked about, but also how to integrate that into the landmarked architecture was the focus of our study. Similarly, at the exterior, also a landmark, you can see that over time, for example, most specifically the stairs were enlarged in 1970 to accommodate larger crowds. This is also a public arrival space, also critical that signage here is clear and works well with the architecture to direct the public. In beginning our study, trying to understand the architecture, as Brett noted, there will be a new 83rd Street entrance. There's already an entrance at 81st and the main entrance at 82nd. So we have three entrances. And once you get into the Great Hall, there's three colonnades to the south, to the north, and to the west. So we started to pick up on this as a little bit of an architectural framework that we could start to apply as we moved into the signage in more detail. Speaking to the evolution of signage over time, you can see here some photos from the last 15, 20 years. The museum has gone through a succession of different ways to provide information, ticketing, signage to the public. So it is something that's always changing, and we want to make sure the signage we deploy is capable of adapting. This slide speaks to the variety of signage that's in place at this time, and I think this is really the comment that we got, that there's a cacophony of signage in the Great Hall. So how do we start to dial that back, have less signage, have signage that's clearer and more effective? And just underlining how crowded the Great Hall can get, and how important it is for signage to be able to deal with these conditions of crowding, so you can see things both up close and from a distance. Some of the constraints that we were tackling. Additionally, it's a huge museum. Based on the signage that's currently in the Great Hall, you actually don't have the opportunity to provide information on all of the different departments in the museum. So we're looking for a way to be able to provide more information in the Great Hall. And we did some research on peer institutions, other museums, trying to understand how they're integrating signage into the fabric of their buildings. You can see the kiosk there on the left, which is that freestanding pylon That's an opportunity to provide a lot of information without directly attaching to wall surfaces or historic architecture. The banner in the middle photo, certainly a way that the Met is currently deployed, and a good way to provide signage from a distance, but also be sensitive to the architecture. So these were some of the things that we drew from as we were designing the proposed signage. And, you know, just the point that there are a lot of different types of people who visit the museum, that the signage needs to be able to respond to, both visitors who are there for the first time, but also regular visitors who want to be able to really dial into what's on view, where are the special exhibitions, things like that. So starting the study, we looked at the historic architecture, trying to understand how we can map zones of signage onto the architecture in a sensitive way. So you can see here the red band at the top, really the opportunity for hung signage, for banners, things you're going to see from a distance. And then as you get closer to the floor, the blue and the yellow lines for directional signage and more specific signage about how to find your way out of the Great Hall. Also looking at the historic material that we consider kind of the background palette for the work. The museum is Indiana lime, or the Great Hall is Indiana limestone on the interior with a cementitious terrazzo floor. There's some marble, there's some other stone present in various signage you can see here in this photo. The existing signage does present a number of different methodologies for anchoring. There's a history of different systems at play here. We're trying to be very sensitive to the existing stone, so we're not increasing the amount of anchor holes and the number of different hanging strategies that you can see here. We're trying to really rectify that. This is the existing signage plan, a 3D. You can see in particular a lot of small signs around the colonnades and around the information desk at the center of the space, trying to figure out a way to distribute those more carefully and provide information where it's required. This is the existing plan. You could see again a lot of that signage kind of grouping around the entrances and exits to the Great Hall. And this is our proposed rendering, introducing the idea of the pylon, which you can see as a triangular shaped object there. Similar to some of those peer institutions, we're proposing the pylon as a way to provide a lot of information at the right location for the public. And the pylon I'll go into a little bit more detail. And then at the information desk, also supplementing the visitor services there with digital touch screens, 2 of those that would allow users to do more of a deep dive into the current offerings, the map of the museum, different languages that would be fully accessible with the listening loop, et cetera, for the public. This is the proposed signage plan. Getting a little bit into the specific signage types, which we call the family of signs. We're trying to produce a system of signage that work together, but also work with the architecture. So you can see here that family for the Great Hall. And just quickly from left to right, you can see the touch screen at the information desk, the pylon, the hung banners, a different variety of banner that's longer and narrower there, which works with the return portals in and out of the Great Hall. And then some of the on the right are the smaller directional signs, carefully located at stone joints and to work within stone proportions. Those are really to help guide you on your way out of the Great Hall into the museum. The material palette for the proposed signage, we're drawing from the Met Red, and then a complementary white, which works both with that and with the limestone. And then for the metal accents, a bronze, either in a light or a dark finish, which is very appropriate to the era of the Great Hall and the architecture in the early 20th century. This is the whole family rendered. Speaking a little bit to the banners, we did a mock-up here. You can see that on the left, trying to find the right proportion of the banner relative to the colonnade, giving it enough space to breathe and let the columns be themselves as architecture, but also providing enough real estate and height to provide the signage information that we need. So you can see that study here. Some of the proportions of the banners and the signage showing how we're trying to hit stone coursing for example, the height of the pylon for the long narrow banner, and as well as the working with the existing architecture at the information desk. Similar with the directional signage. And then some renderings looking south towards Greek and Roman, west towards the Grand Stair, and then north towards Egyptian. You can see the signage family here being deployed. To the attachments, which I was describing, there's a number of them currently being deployed. We're trying to really be very specific about how we will anchor things. This is a great opportunity to hang the banners by finding actually there's a gap between the capital of the column and the underside of the frieze there, where we're able to get some hardware integrated as minimally as possible. We're proposing a frame to these banners, which would be that bronze that I described earlier. And we are looking at a potential alternate, which would be a subtle backlit version of this banner, which we're testing, which might be a way to further let the banners pop out in the very busy Great Hall. This is the existing directional signage. You can see a number of different types. Hoping to really put a lot of that information into the pylon. So this is showing the pylon in more detail, how we can deploy it with a lot of specificity about which way to go, but also a digital display with static signage, which would be able to be updated with the latest special exhibitions and whatnot. And that would allow the museum to switch that out without needing to switch the signage type. The triangular form works well within the terrazzo patterning of the Great Hall, and it fits into the corner of the stone pier. This is some detail on how that would be put together. This would be designed to be removable, so it would be anchored to the floor, and if the Met needed to take it out, it could without damage to the surrounding. Similar with the information desk touchscreen, you can see that being deployed here. That would also be removable. This would be supplemental to the existing visitor experience staff, but it would provide the opportunity to really go deep into what's available in different languages, etc. So adding information here without needing to add a bunch of signs. The directional signage types, you can see here, for example, we're matching the anchor points of this sign to the grout joints, which is the appropriate place to get the anchor in without going right into the surface of the stone. So we're being cognizant of trying to be as minimally invasive as possible. And finishing out that family. Part of the work, we're also relocating the World War II plaque to a similarly located wall, limestone wall, one of the arches. And going now to the exterior, so the top band is the interior signage family I described. The bottom band is the exterior signage family. A lot of the same logic is here with the Met red at the banner level, and then more specific directional signage down at the eye level of the visitor. Same story at the exterior in a lot of ways, a proliferation of different signage types, not very efficient in being able to deliver information. You can see all of those signs here. And our proposal to really reduce the number of signage types, the number of signs, and put them in the right place so they can do the job they need to do. That will include providing some pylons out in the plaza to help signal the new entrances at the new entrance at 83rd Street as well as at 81st Street. And we'll see as we go through why we think those signs are very important. Again, similar to the interior, a lot of different sign types at the exterior. We're trying to clean that up, make that more systematic. A similar logic was applied at the exterior to understand where and the architecture are the right horizontal bands to apply signage, both hung and down low. So you'll see that the exterior elevation on the left versus the interior elevation on the right that we saw previously being a similar strategy. This is again showing the various signs at the exterior, and then going into each of the conditions in a little bit more detail. You can see the banners above the doors, the opportunity for donor recognition potentially, but then more importantly, the pylon types both out at the sidewalk and at the entrances to help direct people to the specific amenities beyond. These are the three entrances, 81st Street, 82nd Street, and then the future 83rd Street entrance on the right. Some views from the plaza. I think these help support the fact that putting something out on the plaza level or at the sidewalk helps understand where you want to be able to turn in to the museum. And also find the new 83rd Street entrance, which is shown here. This is what we presented and had approved by Landmarks about a year ago. There's an existing door there, which is not a public entrance. We're gonna open that up and add 2 more flanking doors, which is actually a restoration of the original condition. But we need to be able to put signage there to direct the public towards this entrance. You can see that here with the banner and the pylon. A similar strategy at 81st Street and at 82nd Street, the main entrance. Part of this also, similar to the interior, is to be very considerate about how we're anchoring the signage to try to make it as minimal as possible, to anchor into the stone as carefully as we can. You can see some of the existing conditions here with a lot of exposed hardware and ropes and whatnot. Our proposal would be to really put a lot of that structure behind the signage and to mount it as carefully as we can so that you're not seeing a lot of the hardware. So this is the proposal for that. And then the anchor points tucked around the corner in the gap between the banners, so they're not as visible. Looking at some of the signages, pylons that are currently there, there are some existing illuminated kiosks at the curb, which proved to be too far towards the street, really, for the pedestrian. Those are probably more for motorists. There's also some blade pylons that are present at 81st and 83rd Street, which we're looking to update and unify. This is the exterior pylon. It's similar in function to the interior pylon. We're picking up on that triangular shape. This would provide also directional signage to each of the entrances, clarifying what you can expect to find there, and also a digital display to provide specific information on what's new, what's the latest exhibit, etc. Those digital displays would be pointing actually towards the museum, so they wouldn't be something that you would see from across the street, for example. And this, again, showing the functionality of that pylon. We'd pull it out, so it's really at the sidewalk and something you're able to see before you get into the what's often a crowded area right around the entrances. How you might then be directed towards 81st Street, similarly at 83rd Street. And then finally, to unify the whole family, we're proposing the replacement of the public parking sign, which is down at 80th Street, with the sign on the right. So that really would, on the left rather, that would unify the whole exterior signage family in concert with the interior. And that is the presentation. We're happy to take any questions if you have them, and happy to hear your thoughts.
Great. Thank you very much. It's a very thorough presentation. Questions? John?
Yeah, I think that this generally all looks really good. I think with some of the removal of the signs in the Great Hall and kind of condensing it into fewer, kind of more high density, how are you thinking about kind of crowding around the new signs and kiosks and stuff?
That's a great question. I think the key is to get the pylons to be in the right spot, and then to provide clear information so people aren't, spending too much time there, but using those really as a signpost to then continue on their way. And I think as Brett described it, it's a flexible system. So the positions we're showing right now are not necessarily the final positions. It's designed to be adaptable. So if moving something to another location proves to be effective in managing the visitor flow, that's an option.
Questions?
Question about the interior and one for the exterior. The interior pylon detail, I'm wondering what material that's made of. It says aluminum and sign panels, but what is?
Yeah, I can't hear. Could you just talk a little bit louder? I'm having trouble
Sure.
reading.
What is the material of the pylon, the visible material?
Yes. So we're looking at bronze. So we would pick up on the bronze that I described. The structure of the pylon would be aluminum. That's an appropriate kind of lightweight, strong material, but we would clad that in something more appropriate to the architecture of the space.
Follow up on that, will that be anchored into the stone floor and terrazzo flooring?
It would be. So we would provide a socket into the terrazzo floor. And we would make sure we're doing that as carefully as we can to minimize the amount of removal. But the socket itself, it's probably an inch or so in diameter, so it's quite discreet. It would get a cap when not in use. And that is something we've had success actually reversing if need be. You can do patching of that if at any point in time the museum wanted to take that out.
Another question.
Sure, yeah.
On the exterior, can you describe which signs are illuminated and internally and which may just be illuminated, from a light fixture,
Yeah.
shedding, casting light on it? Yeah.
Let me just bring up the plan here quickly. Go back to oops, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry, let's see if I can figure out how to.
Page 63.
Okay. Give me
That's
one
helpful.
second. Yes. Okay. So let me actually go back to the plan, the overall plan. I think that's the right thing to look at. So I think starting here, the only signage that we would provide internal illumination for would be, and that would just be the digital screens that I described, would be these kiosks here out at the sidewalk, if you can see my cursor. Everything else would be non-illuminated. There is facade illumination, which is designed to illuminate some of the facade signs, and that would be all that we would require.
And then Henry, I could just add that over the new 83rd Street doors, maybe you could just point to those 3 doors. When we got the doors approved, there's light fixtures in the underside of the door just to illuminate the signs above, but beyond that, we're not changing the lighting strategy in the plaza, which was very well thought through about a decade and a half ago.
Thank you.
So
You mentioned some of the banners being internally lit. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, so that would be at the interior, the banners that are hung between the columns. It's something we're exploring. I think we're still carrying the option for no internal illumination. And we're doing a mock-up, so we're just not sure yet which direction we're going to go. But it's a big space. There's a lot going on, so we're just looking for ways to really make the signage as clear as possible. So that's still in our potential toolkit.
Should we consider that as part of the application?
Yeah, I think we talked to Landmarks about this because we haven't decided yet, and we are going to decide by the time we have our public hearing. So we wanted to present both options and get feedback on them from the community boards because we are still considering this internal illumination. There's operational and other considerations, and we want to see it in the space before we actually decide how we feel about it.
One more, Kevin. Sure. Any of the digital signs, aside from patrons that you mentioned, will there be any kind of non-museum related advertising?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not. Yeah, we use them. We really just try to use them more in a static way so that we don't have to print posters and for every exhibition and put it out there. So the idea is that it's talking about what's happening at the museum.
You explained the pylons, and if you had to undo it, it's been successful in terms of the patching. Could you explain to us what that patching looks like? Like if you have a hole in a terrazzo floor?
Sure. It would be what they call an Akimi epoxy patch. So you go in with an epoxy, which is painted in and dyed to match the specific aggregate of the stone. And there's artisans who can do this, and once you're done, you really can't even see the patch, and it wears and stands up just as well as the cementitious terrazzo.
Just a couple quick ones on the pylon. it's kind of a creative solution. The display screen, how bright will that be? Do you have a sense for that?
I don't have the actual data on the brightness, but the idea would be that it's not, obtrusive and overpowering in the space. I think it's really more about, as Brett said, the ability to have it switch out without needing to reprint and rehang a lot of signage. So, that would be the strategy, I think, to keep it as only as bright as needed for to serve the purpose for somebody up at the pylon trying to understand where they want to go.
Gotcha. Okay. And then just kind of a follow-up. Are the pylons going to be a theme? I know we're just talking about the Great Hall, but is it going to be a theme throughout the museum for other areas in terms of directions, information, that sort of thing?
I can speak to that. I think we're still trying to figure that out. We want art to be the guide through the museum, so there would be no scenario where we would never be allowed to kind of proliferate these throughout the museum as guideposts. When you come in and you hang a left, it's like you go to the Sardis column. We want that to be what you see in Greek and Roman or on Egyptian or another gallery. But I think there may be other places in the museum where we would consider putting them to get information at key locations, but I think it would be quite restrained if we were to have them travel through the museum.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Overpowering space, I think that was a good thing to say, because it seems like the focus, of course, is the art, but it's also that this is this beloved historic building, and both the interior, as you discussed, and then the exterior. So it does seem sort of overpowering, but I know you guys have made the best decisions that you can. I guess the question that I have is, if the goal was to sort of try to communicate what's going on in the most minimal way, were there any other options aside from these pylons that you had considered? For example, and this is probably not a great example because I'm not a tech person, I'm at the Met actually often, but I don't do this. What use of, God bless you. You're welcome. What use of iPhone or phones do everyone has a phone in their hand? That's usually the way that anyone gets around anywhere, and it's just such a viable way to get information. Is that something that you all are deciding on utilizing in order to perhaps meet this goal of minimizing this abundance of information, which I'm sure also has to be you have to continue, you guys have all these great brochures. I'm often with kids, they all want one. So you guys have all these pamphlets and then all this information, and I'm just seeing a lot of overwhelming stuff, and I know you have a huge facility to deal with, so I'm not trying to say anything except for, did you explore that, and would that in any way help with trying to minimize all of this overwhelming use of communication vehicles?
Yeah, I can start with that, Henry. It's a great question. We've been asked it. I think it's the right question. The answer is it's both. So, we do have QR codes in the museum right now. We tend to use them for didactic information. So you can, when you're standing somewhere and you want to learn more about it and spend time, you can use your phone to get that information. We have tried a few different wayfinding scenarios with people using their phones with mixed success. We are also working very hard to increase our self coverage and Wi-Fi coverage in the museum. It's 21 separate buildings, many of which are solid 18-inch thick masonry walls, and there are dead spaces in the museum where people can't get cell coverage. We've also seen people come and stand in the Great Hall, and then they're on their phone trying to get information. And our goal is actually to get people into the Great Hall, experience the space, but then have it be what we've been calling the Great Sorter, where you immediately see where you want to go. And so it's striking that balance between, I wouldn't say our goal is to have the signage be minimal. I would say our goal is to have the signage be respectful of the architecture, but visible, because we want people to know where to go. And I think what happens when visitors come in the Great Hall is often the first decision they're trying to make is like which direction to head for the amenities that they want or the galleries that they want. And the idea is that these signs will alert them to that immediately. And then there's layers of information on top of that as they go through their journey. Ideally, they're using their phone before they arrive too, to figure out which entrance to use, but we've been finding that that isn't quite happening yet. So I think the idea would be that as technology evolves and changes, our signage strategy would evolve and change, and we would probably have to come back at some point on that. But in the moment we're in right now in time, that the phones aren't enough to prevent us from having large signage that draws people's attention to where we want them to go, or where they would like to go. So I hope that answers your question. It's not to punt on it. It's just that it's nuanced. It's not one or the other right now.
No, I know, I understand. No, it's a great answer, and my phone has been dead in certain parts of your museum for sure. I understand. I just thought moving forward, because I used the word minimize because you guys used it, and I used the word overpower because you guys used it. And do you guys have a rendering of the whole exterior? I know you have a map and you showed us all where the sign is and the pylons and everything. Have you guys done sort of a rendering so we could just sort of see how minimal or overpowered? Is there sort of a thing that would say this is
We have
kind of what it's
views,
gonna
right,
look
Henry? And elevate. I don't think we can ever get the whole thing in one shot, but
Yeah.
some views we could go back
It's
to
just
those.
sort of it's like a bird's eye view. Is that more like sort of a mapping of them as opposed to just sort of, this is what we think? Do you ever work that way, that sort of do a rendering
Sure.
like, this is what it's gonna look like on the outside, I guess is what I'm.
Let me just
I mean,
share this.
Just for example, like one of the reasons we're proposing the Met Red banner over I don't know if you can see on the right, I'm pointing to my screen, but you can't, over to the right, sorry, where the 83rd Street, yeah, right there.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we decided to do that is actually like our whole frontage is a bus drop off. And so when you're approaching the Met, you can't actually see over a lot of the activity that's happening. There's buses, there's carts, and so we were trying to balance a location where visitors could actually see a sign and understand that there's a door there, but in a location that worked with the architecture. So, I think if we have many stakeholders, if our visitor experience or other colleagues who really want people to know where to go would have, been able to do whatever they wanted, they would have wanted a huge banner in that location to draw people to the entrance. So we were trying to strike the balance between those two things. So a lot of it was actually approaching the museum from different angles, standing on the plaza, experiencing it. It's 4 city blocks. There's a lot of activity, and being as precise as we could about where we want to draw people's attention. So that's why we have the pylon that catches you if you're walking north south, and then kind of signals, oh, you can go to the west and there's a door there, so that people don't walk by this new entrance, and understand that it's an accessible entrance also, so that if you're in a wheelchair or have strollers, you actually realize you can hang a right there and get in an elevator, and the same on the other side. So I don't know if this is the image that you wanted to see, but this is essentially what we're proposing over the 4 city block facade.
No, very helpful. Thank you.
Great question. I had the same question about the phones. Other questions? So,
I think we touched on the system being flexible and adaptable, and it sounds like there's some elements like lighting of the interior banners, or just ultimately how crowds will interface with the pylons inside. Do you envision any kind of like pilot or test rollout before, everything goes in the ground and signs go up in the visitor center?
Yeah, we kind of do everything here as slight rollout just because of the scale. So our strategy is to really focus on the new entry and the Great Hall and the signs that are absolutely required at the kind of base to get people where they need to go. And then to layer on, especially some of the smaller scale directional signage that Henry described that like tells you can go from this gallery to that gallery. The other reason we have to roll this out is because we need to make sure when the sign points you somewhere, there's another sign somewhere along that journey that gets you to where you want to go. When you're in the Great Hall, you can be 2 blocks away from the wing that you actually want to go to. So just one sign in the Great Hall isn't quite enough. So there will definitely be a phased rollout of this. And I think we see the pylons in a way as a bit of a pilot. Like we're only proposing to do 2 or 3 at the beginning. Probably a maximum of 3 overall. Maybe we even start with 1. We haven't decided yet, but we would put it in the space and see how it functions. We've done things at the Met, like we'll put a cone down in the Great Hall to see what people go to the cone, so it really changes the behavior in the Great Hall, especially when you have 33,000 people in there at a time. So we will absolutely test it out, but we think this is the starting place. So that's kind of why we're proposing this as the framework.
So I know accessibility is critical to the mission, and it's great that you have the accessible entrance on 83rd Street. And I noticed that you use high contrast and simple fonts, which is really wonderful for people with sight impairment. I wonder if you considered anything tactile or pictogram or audio for sight impaired folks?
Yeah, Henry, do you want to?
So we're definitely providing listening loops wherever we need to, as far as like at the pylon, at the information desk, so that people who are hard of hearing can utilize that and then activate the listening loop. And we would also use Braille on signage, where required per code based on the type of sign. Certainly that wouldn't work for the banners, which are up high. So those are, as you said, very graphic, and the font size there is size so that people can see it from a distance, people who are hard of seeing, who have a hard time seeing. So I think, depending on the scale of the sign, we're doing as much as we can to make them accessible.
Thank you.
Last questions? Public.
Comment?
We'll do comments, after. Anyone in the room or online? Seeing nothing, business session. Comments and thoughts? Michael?
Thank you. A great presentation. It's a shame that such a magnificent interior space has to have any signs at all, because the place is really great. I was just there the other day. As a matter of fact, we were all invited, and me and one other person, and one other person went, and we had a tour by Brett, what was magnificent.
Oh, thank you.
Of the new wing, the Rockefeller, yes, the Rockefeller wing.
Yeah.
And the artwork in there is just magnificent, but forget the artwork for a second. The building itself and how she described the window shades reacting to the moisture and the weather and this and that. You don't think about it in there because we're looking at the great artwork, which is magnificent, but how that building functions and how they get it all put together is amazing. And this is just one of the many minor, I think, impediments that they have to deal with. Up to me, everything would be teleported to you. You want to know where the temple is, take a left at the corner and boom, you're there, kind of thing. Or the phone that Suzanne suggested, but that's my comment.
Wait for the brain implant chip.
Oh, the next time that they invite you, the landmark committee, which we were invited as a group, go. Because these places blow you away. The time that they invited us to the top of that new summit and 15 people out of 50 went, disgraceful.
Invite the public members. We need to be
Go.
invited.
All right, enough.
Okay, comments, thoughts? Okay, any motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Oh,
Gerstein,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Riz,
yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Payback,
Yes.
Yanovich,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Patel,
Yes.
Tuckman,
Yes.
I am a yes. Johnson,
Yes.
Pedrazi, present, not entitled.
Testing,
Yes.
motion passes.
Terrific. Brett, Henry, thank you so much. I know you guys have to present to several community boards, so we definitely appreciate coming down as well. Love the matter. Love you guys. You guys are very professional, terrific presentation as always. So
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate the feedback and questions as well. Thanks so much.
I'll do.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And next up on our whirlwind They're already said it. Ten Rock. Perfect.
What little ladder, which was this presentation?
Ten Rockefeller. Rockefeller.
Rockefellers.
So 10 Rock. Ken Rock.
You know, the Ken Walk.
There's something called. This is 10 Rock.
You all ready for us?
There you are.
Yeah. Very excited. Hi, good evening, Cass Stackenberg from Higgins Grace Garden and Partners, here with Matt DeRico from Rockwell Group. Pamela Ortiz from Rockwell and my colleague Trey O'Kenny. Well, we're going to be presenting project for work at 10 Rockefeller Plaza. Some of the committee may be familiar with this scope. We were here 2 years ago for a similar overall scope, but there have been some significant changes to the project that actually brings us back to you all and to a public hearing. We're calendared for a public hearing November 18th. So just a little bit of context, and I'll provide a bit of context as we go through this. The project that we're presenting tonight for you is a limited scope, but it's tied to a larger project, which is the adaptive reuse of the upper floors of 10 Rockefeller Plaza for new hotel use. And I think in the overall concept of sort of where we are in the city with the use of the conditions in office buildings throughout the city, I think the idea of integrating hotel use into the center is actually quite exciting. And in fact, actually, it was part of Rockefeller's early plan, although as when he was envisioning the center as an opera house and entertainment complex, but as the plans changed through the 30s, late 20s and into the 30s, and the whole center changed to a commercial concept, the idea of a hotel there was dropped. But I think this is a really fantastic opportunity to sort of bring an idea, a historic idea back to the center. So as I mentioned, we presented to the committee for a similar scope of work back in April of 2023. And had an approval issued by the commission at Landmarks in May of that year. When we came to you all 2 years ago, there was general support for the application, but the committee recommended denial based on some design elements, the detailing of a marquee, some signage and some detailing inside the entryway. We're going to show you some of those images from 2 years ago, as well as the new design. We are where we are today. I think there have been some changes that have been made that, not intentionally, but do address some of those comments. So perhaps you'll see this in a fresh light. Just a little bit to sort of catch you up on where the team has been over the last 2.5 years. So this is a big project. Unfortunately, the lead design team, led by Thierry Despont, had changed. Thierry passed away, and Rockwell Group is now designing the project. This project also was the first project to go through review for the hotel special permit. And that was a lengthy review process that's now complete and was passed by the City Planning Commission. So now the project is moving forward and we're bringing forward these changes to you, and as I mentioned, going to a public hearing in November. So with that, let's Trey, if you can go to the great. So just a little bit of background. This is a historical view of Rockefeller Center. 10 Rock is here. This is the west side, sort of looking east. 30 Rock, obviously right in the center, and this is 10 Rockefeller Plaza here. It was completed in 1939. It was called at the time the Eastern Airlines Building. Lawrence Rockefeller was on the board of the nascent Eastern Airlines, and they occupied some of the floors of that building. The building has its primary entry, not surprisingly, on Rockefeller Plaza. There's a secondary entry, which will become the primary entry for the hotel on East 48th Street. That's down here, and it really faces outside of the center. So it's kind of in a way, it's kind of a back door. And you'll see in the design moves that the team has developed, it really is intended to sort of make it a front door, but in a very sympathetic way. Next. So this is the overall view of the north elevation of 10 Rockefeller Plaza. This is looking across the Sunken Plaza. 30 Rockefeller Plaza is here. This is really sort of the primary view of the building. When you see this building, you're within the center complex, you're looking across the skating rink or in the warmer weather, the plaza. And this is really the main view of the building. The Today Show is at this corner. Christie's is down the block. All the work that we're proposing is actually on the backside, sort of faces the city onto the south side of 48th Street. Next slide. A site plan here, this is a sort of historic site plan, again, the sort of core of the center here, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, Radio City. This is 10 Rock and 48th Street, and the main entry to the hotel will be here. The main entry to the office building remains here. And then an overall ground floor plan of the building. Again, the main lobby of the building remains unchanged, and the entry to the hotel will be off the 48th Street. This is the plaza, 49, 48, and 6th Avenue. Historically, this portion of the building was used as the Rockefeller Center garage. That's kind of indicated in this map. This is a key plan from the 1950s that shows the entries to the garage just to the west of where the building entry will be on 48th Street. Next. This is the view across Rockefeller Plaza. This is the main entry with the flagpoles, the Today Show here on the corner, and then the Rockefeller Plaza running along here. Right? Coming around, this is now the 49th Street side. This is the entry to Christie's, and then this glazed, modern sort of curvilinear base. Important to note that when 10 Rockefeller Plaza was designed and built, it really was quite different than the 3 or 4 buildings that had preceded it. Those buildings sort of hit the ground much harder. Sort of the limestone came down to the pavement, to the sidewalk, whereas at 10 Rock, they integrated curtain wall design, particularly along 49th Street, but even along the 48th Street side. So there's much more glazing around the base of this building than the other buildings within the center that preceded it. Next slide. Now this is the 48th Street side. This is the sort of back side. This is what is now sort of a secondary entry into the lobby. It will become the primary entry to the hotel. This is a retail space on the corner, and then what had been the garage down at this end. And I'll just point out in this slide, this is obviously something the design team is taking cues from. All these openings here are framed by this simple limestone frame that frames the glazed portions. And also just sort of seeing this sort of simple bronze grid of mullions framing large glass panels. Next slide. And then looking sort of directly at the area of work. So again, this will be the entry, and the work is really just occurring here. And again, you can see more clearly this sort of framed glazed panels on either side of the entry. Next. Looking inside the opening, so this is the recessed entry to eventually to the lobby. Simple limestone panels, granite water table, and gray granite terrazzo, just flat plaster ceiling. Next slide. So this illustrates sort of the range of sort of the project. This is the current condition. This is what was presented to this committee and to the commission back in May of 2023. The proposal then had a sort of a curvilinear canopy glazed with a wire mesh, a white bronze, and then a proposed new artwork that was going to sit right above the main entry. And this is the current proposal, which is perhaps a bit more sort of sedate. Instead of artwork, the proposal now within that same proposed limestone frame that matches the frame on either side, it's just a simple set of glazed panels set into a bronze framework with a metal mesh that reads almost like a curtain behind that. You'll see more detail on that. And then a very simple sort of clean bronze framed marquee, sort of modern in its detailing, and then two sconces on either side. So we give you this sort of for overall context of sort of where the project has been and where it is today. Next. And then a little bit more sort of information about the comparison, obviously what was presented previously and where we are today. Just simple translucent glass, simple bronze frame, curvilinear edging on the corners of the marquee, similar to the other historic marquees at the center. This bronze framed panel system with this mesh, and we have samples here. I'm happy to sort of pass this around, but basically it is this metal mesh that reads almost like fabric behind glass, and there'll be uplighting in it to give it a little bit of light. New blackened steel and frosted glass sconces on either side of the entry, and then small signage just flanking the entry to the main entry. Next slide. Materials, we have them here. I'm happy to pass them around if that's helpful. But limestone within the entry and granite, bronze doors, blackened steel for the marquee and the lighting, travertine across the floor. Materials that one would see typically throughout the center. Next slide. Comparative sections, this is what was presented previously and approved and where we are today. This marquee extended out about 2.5 feet further than what's being proposed. And then you can see this rendered elevation here, limestone panels, sconces on the inside and granite across the base. I'll mention two comments that the committee had back in 2023. One was about the projection of the canopy and the other was about this undulating ceiling. Both things that the committee wasn't happy about, and those have actually been changed. It's a simple sort of narrow vaulted ceiling, and the projection of the canopy now is about 2.5 feet shorter than what would have been previously presented. Next slide. Some detailing on that glass panel with this fabric glass that you see passed around. It's going to be set into a metal framework. Because of the tendency of the building, there's another tenant at the second floor with a masonry wall directly behind. So that we have very little depth to work within. So this screen sort of, or this mesh almost implies sort of depth, but there really isn't any. It's only about 8 or 9 inches depth, but there'll be this glass system with the bronze mullions. It will be operable to allow for access cleaning, and there'll be very small LED fixtures that will just provide a little bit of glow behind this mesh. And that will all sort of sit within this very narrow sandwich. Next slide. An overall elevation, just to put the building, the work in the context of the overall elevation, as I said, this area is retail use right now. Everything down here had been garage and now is sort of back of house office space for other tenants in the building, although the garage still remains down here. Next slide. Some details for the doors, bronze doors. These are deeply set into the entry vestibule, done in a statuary bronze, and then a reflective plan for the marquee itself, extending about 6.5 feet off the face of the building. Coffered detailing, blackened steel frame, and a limestone fitter. Next slide. Comparative plans, again, this is the existing, this is what was presented previously and approved and where we are today. Very similar to what was presented previously. Some changes in the materiality. Again, the walls will be clad in limestone with granite, dark gray terrazzo across the floor, plaster ceiling. I'll also just point out here, we're proposing just a simple bluestone pattern out in front of the hotel. Currently, it's all just 5-foot flat concrete flag. So drawing a little bit of attention to the main entry to the hotel in a bluestone. Next slide. And that's a treatment. So the detail here of that treatment. Next slide. In about 2000, the commission approved and what was installed throughout the center. You see a lot of this bluestone paving within the plaza roadbed. You see that the corners, and then the individual entries to the buildings. Many of them have bluestone, different patterns, bluestone, some granite. This is a distinct paving within Channel Gardens, which really only occurs in Channel Gardens, given the prominence of that place within the center. But we thought that sort of in this context, particularly on the 48th Street side, where it's really just it's just concrete, integrating a little bit of stone into that to call out the entry to just note it as a special entry point. Next slide. And this is a rendered plan just illustrating the bluestone. We're proposing to enlarge the tree pits, which will help the 2 trees that are currently out in front of the building, which are in tree guards that are really too tight. So enlarging the tree pits, bluestone pavers, and then the terrazzo leading into the hotel entry. Next slide. Some details on the signage. It's just simple bronze signage. There's a cutout here with a light source behind there, so it'll just be a glow coming through that solid bronze for the hotel logo. Next one. And then similarly on the opposite side, so this is that first sign was here flanking the entry. The second sign is a very, very discreet signage. Dimension is. I think it's like 1 foot, almost a foot.
6 inches and 1 foot 3 inches.
1 foot 6, so it's 18 by 15. So very discreet signage on either side of the hotel, all in statuary bronze. Next slide. And then just a few photographs sort of around the center. So I mentioned that the base of 10 Rockefeller Plaza comes down to the building sort of with a lot of glazing. This is the main entry to 10 Rock, these tall glass panels. And then you can see the corner detail here, these large panels of glass. And even to the east at One Rockefeller Plaza, you have this storefront infill. And so the proposal sort of above this canopy is kind of riffing off on some of those historic details that one sees throughout the center. And then this is the 6th Avenue side. This is 1230 Avenue Americas, which is basically the opposite side of this elevation. Again, this very light glazed system at the base of the building, very different than what you see elsewhere around the center. Similar to this, where the limestone comes down to the street. This building has a much lighter feel at the base of it, so we're trying to pick up on that. Next. And then the last element, just touching on the marquee. So historically, obviously, the center was built with marquees. It was an entertainment complex. 30 Rockefeller Plaza had marquees on either side of both the 50th and 49th Street sides. What was then the Newsreel Theater at 50 Rockefeller Plaza that had this very brightly illuminated marquee on the north side of 50th Street. You can just make out this marquee here, the one at 30 Rock. And sort of recognizing the history of marquees throughout the center, next slide, the commission has approved contemporary marquees in a number of locations. So what we're proposing is something sort of similar in spirit to some of these. It's a contemporary marquee. It picks up on some of the detailing and some of the modern deco lines that you see in the historic marquees, but in a very sort of elegant, simple way. So we show this just to give you the context of previous approvals throughout the center. And then finally back to our proposed view next. Just two views of the proposal. So again, this is part of a much larger project. We're working with Landmark staff on a very large scope of work on the upper floors for all interior work. This is really the scope of the commission review on the 48th Street side, a very heavy commercial street. This is intended to sort of draw a little bit of attention to this entry. Right now, it serves really as sort of almost like a back of house entry to the building. And integrating features, the glazed panel above, the limestone frame, and the marquee in a way really drawn from the historic detailing seen throughout the center. So we'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Questions?
So I had this application back when you came to us. I remember being shocked when I saw the undulating ceiling during the last one, but this was a more pleasant surprise. Can you, you talked a lot about the black and steel and then the antique bronze. The antique bronze, the statuary bronze.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's getting used throughout this entryway. Can you point out, this is a good picture, point out where each of those is being used?
I'm gonna let Matt do that since he's designed this, sure, with his team.
If you wanna go to the material sheet, I think that's.
You have to pass these around too, but these are the two samples.
Yeah, so I think, so the black and the statuary bronze, I think the bronze is kind of the highlight that we're trying to use in certain ways that really kind of highlight either the signage, the light fixtures, or the marquee itself. When we get to the window vitrine light box, we're doing a few different versions of how we can use the metals between the dark metal and the light metal to make this feel a lot thinner, a lot lighter, and a lot more graceful and respectful to the center. So there's a mix of the bronze and the black finish. Black finish mostly on the exterior of the marquee, and then once you get underneath on the coffers, that's where some bronze comes in. On the light fixtures themselves, and then also on the two signage plaques here. Once you get into the tunnel, we do have some decorative lighting as well. That's also the bronze that we have, and then back into the doorway. So really the bronze kind of plays more of a role when you're at eye level, and then the black is more for marquee and above.
All right, thank you.
More questions? Yeah. Sit. Right.
Could you just put those where those what represents all of them?
All these?
Yeah, and that one, and the
Yeah.
glass. Just so we can have.
Sure. So the cast glass or the frosted glass is here for the marquee. It's for the two light fixtures as well. And this will take on a little bit of a different look with the color temperature lighting. We have the bronze here that we were just talking through, and the black metal.
This is this is the fabric glass sample, which is here. So this is in each separate window box. And this is what's going to give us that effect of the depth that we don't have, but the illusion that we can create. So that'll be behind the clear glass windows in each of those 9. We have the plaster, which in this view you don't see, but it's that barrel vault ceiling that's inside that we have. And then, you want to?
Yeah, so, and then what's also happening is the plaster is behind the interlayer glass. So that there's like a sort of a bright background to that, and then the interlayer just sort of glows and it's sort of in the color box. It looks like a window and should have something.
Yeah, and this is our current mock-up with that. So with the glass being street side, plaster being building side, and the light fixturing between the glows that we'll be able to achieve with backlighting, that is the depth illusion that we're.
How close is that plaster to the glass?
Plaster to the glass, so this whole sandwich is from the front of the glass to the CMU wall, we have 9 inches. From the front of the glass of the casement window to the front of the glass of the fabric glass is about 4.5. So it sits in between.
Can you put them?
I'm sorry. Yeah, so it'll appear like this, and this is approximately that sandwich, so. I'll give you that, so it's just enough, both, yeah, we're working with the limited space that we have. But it is set back from the casement windows,
The lighting is coming from the inside?
and the lighting will be from the inside, yeah.
Just a reminder to address all the questions to the chair, for speaking, but I just have just to back up for a second. Just to clarify a question, potentially ignorant one. Is this entrance gonna be for both the hotel floors and the office floors?
No, it will remain just for the hotel. So the main lobby will remain an active lobby. The elevator lobby on the inside is being divided. So the eastern cars will remain office and the western cars will be for the hotel. So all that's happening sort of inside, past the main historic lobby.
Got it. So the people that are walking through this entrance are
Only hotel guests.
hotel guests. Got it. And then the application that we saw in 23,
Yes.
was that intended to be pure office space? That was before the
The
hotel.
program was the same. No, that was for a hotel conversion. And
Okay.
it was the same project just 2 years ago. So-
Got it. Okay, that's all. So there.
I love the homage, the honoring of all the materials in the area. It's very sleek, it's very elegant, and it's a huge improvement. In my opinion, I live in this neighborhood and I walk by here all the time, so, very exciting, a lot of hotels in the area. Is there any other signage that we're not seeing, like an exit sign, or is there anything else that I was gonna ask the door question, because I was sort of like, is this a door? But is there an exit sign or anything that you have to deal with, that we're not seeing at this time?
At this time, no, there is there's the header here behind the marquee, and then we have a vaulted ceiling that goes above, so I think we do have a section there. So as we continue with locating any sort of exit signs and things like that, we do have the ability to have that above this marquee on this wall facing this way, so it would not be visible from the street.
Okay.
And I'll just clarify that you will be able to go from this entry into the lobby and vice versa, but we can pull it up on the plan so you can see it. There is a door that connects them. But it's not like, this is not gonna be office tenants coming in this way and hotel tenants are likely to be coming in the other way, because there'll be a separation right there. There is a connection deep into the.
I understand. I was only asking from the point of view of, is this design, was it considered in the sense of like, who's gonna be walking through this?
Yes.
Yeah, who it appeals to? Okay, yeah, sure. Good.
Is that the only entrance that would be made like this? Only one entrance you're talking about?
For the hotel? Yeah, this is the
Of
entrance.
that type in that.
Yeah, I mean, so, like many buildings, there are multiple tenants in this building, so there's hotel use on the upper floors. There's Christie's has part of this space, and there are other tenants in the building too. So Christie's main entry is on 49th Street. The office entry is on the plaza, and this is the hotel entry on 48th.
Which is, what's the building be used for right now? Just,
It's been office, but the floors obviously where the hotel use will be are vacant and under construction.
so how many is the hotel space?
How many floors?
Total square feet.
How many floors? How many floors?
17 floors, 18 if you include,
For the hotel?
Yeah, there's 120 hotel.
Just the tower slab, it's
128
not the broad base.
What's the traffic?
Karen.
I want to talk a little bit about the clear story relief over the entrance doors. So it looks like you have a new portal in limestone framing that matches the adjacent storefront. In order to get the recessed glass, I know it's not a true punched opening, it's just like a false window. You're creating the illusion of illuminated window. Are you removing the limestone panel in order to achieve that detail?
Yes.
yeah, so the limestone would be removed. We do have a section detailed well that goes back to the substrate of that. Which is a CMU wall. So it would be, those limestone panels would be removed. And then we would be treating, and that's what this plaster demonstration was as well. This, once the limestone is removed, is a CMU wall, so we would put sheetrock on top of that and plaster on top of that. And that would be very sympathetic to the limestone elsewhere. But that allows us to get the depth that we need for this vitrine light box.
So you can see this is flat unarticulated.
Yeah.
It's just flat unarticulated stone, of which there are, acres, et cetera, and this stone, because we've replaced some of these units when there are, multiple pin mounted signage that comes out. Sometimes whole units are replaced. This is Indiana limestone, shots on limestone. It's very readily available and, I don't know, we haven't gotten this far, but perhaps this could be used as attic stock for patching
Yeah.
around the center.
You anticipated my next question, which was, is it what a value and can it be reused to create those portals? And if not,
Right.
is it easy to match and, okay.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. Can you talk a little bit about the sconces and the precedent of that design and the size of them?
To start that, the sconces are around 4.5 feet tall. They are above standard eye level, but they are spaced in a way that sits in between the joints in the limestone, so they both reflect the scale that is Rockefeller Center, and then also as we install them, they'll sit centered in those limestone panels. Do you want to talk about the inspiration of the design?
Yeah, so, given that it is a hotel entrance, we're trying to keep this sense of hospitality when you enter, and even though we've referenced a lot of, marquees that are specific to Rock Center, we also are trying to add like that little bit of, sort of entry feel like you're entering a hotel instead of entering an office building. So that was the intention of them to begin with, and then I think what we've tried to do is to just further refine them to feel like they're in keeping with, what else you see at Rock Center.
The marquee kind of drives that, so starting with the marquee, taking cues from others around the center. The detailing on those light fixtures picks up from that as well, so it kind of creates this one cohesive design.
And one last question. I saw two of the dimensions on the marquee, but I don't see the height. What is the height of the marquee from the ground, above the ground?
11 feet, 2 inches.
We don't have that in our deck. We can send that to you.
Yeah, it's over 10 feet.
Over 10,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
What will the color temperature be?
Color temperature, it will be around 2700. We're working with the lighting designers currently to kind of find the exact spec for the fixture that will be best for this. We'll work with them on the color temperature as well to make sure that it highlights our materials as well as, in keeping with the rest of the rest of Rockefeller Center. So There's still a little bit of fine tuning that we need to do there, but it'll be around 27.
But the aim is for a warmer incandescent.
Exactly, it'll be a warmer, yes.
Thank you.
Who's that?
I was just gonna say thank you for taking care of our area trees.
Of course.
Michael.
Can we get the name of the hotel that's gonna go, the company that's putting up the hotel?
Sure. The Little Nell?
Oh, at Aspen,
Yes. Yes.
What is it?
Little Nell, very chic,
Is it gonna
Very
be
rock.
called the Little Nell?
the Little Nell, yeah.
But it'll be called the same in New York.
Yes.
It doesn't, but it's not gonna replicate, it's taking a note from Rock Center, obviously not from Aspen.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the marquee, if, in theory, if a different, there was a change in ownership, you had a new hotel, a different hotel. How would that impact the marquee? Would the color change in the front, or are you committed to that color scheme, or could it change?
Sure.
And if it changed, is that something you could do on your own?
Sure,
Or do you have
so
to come back to Landmark?
even if it's the same hotel company, then they change their colors on their branding or something like that. No, the metal and the glass and the lighting, that would all stay the same. It's a very neutral color scheme that works with the center. If Little Nell decided they wanted to be green instead of red or something to that effect, it wouldn't change the exterior metal work or the limestone. Most of the materials that we do include on this facade are matching from the rest of Ten Rock, so there would be very minimal event.
Signage would be red. That's what.
And that's maybe those two panels, but those are bronze, and that's the way that we are designing them and keeping them.
I think what you're asking is if somebody else wanted to change the light in it, they could. Is that
Yeah,
what you're asking?
yeah, and
So, I mean, there
because
are,
right now the light, everything is blended, but let's say like you have on, Radio City, you know, the bright red sign. Could one day, you change
I
the
think,
lighting and have
landmarks are
red?
required to come back either at staff level or to you all if there was any kind of change to the finish of the signage, for sure. Any change to the signage would require a new permit.
And I don't think we would spec color changing of lights, so I don't think it would be an option. That, again, that's something we're reviewing, but.
Last time you guys had heaters being installed, are they going to be installed? And when we hear hotel, we see this come up.
What's a Peter?
Heater.
Heater.
Oh, heater.
we will,
Under the marquee?
Say it again?
we'll have first.
You will, so they'll be mounted on the underside?
They'll be inside, so in plan, once you cross the threshold of the limestone portal, they'll be inside of there. We're working through the coordination of exactly where those will be, but they'll be on the ceiling in there and in this entry.
Not under the marquee.
Not under the marquee,
They'll be
yeah,
in the throat of the entry.
exactly.
Not
Can
on the
you go to
city.
the elevation that shows the inside of that hallway? Yeah, should be. Yeah, so they'll be tucked up here, so you'll have entered this sort of hall going into the vestibule going into the hotel, and they'll be tucked up at the top. I think we're gonna have two or four.
Yeah, another one. So if we can go back, I'm sorry to make you go back to the other photo we're on. So just talking about exterior lighting, so the marquee is gonna be internally lit. Is the wall itself with the curtain glass, that'll have lighting in it. Is there any lighting on top of the marquee shining up on the facade?
No, everything that is illuminated above the marquee is internally illuminated in that
That's
sandwich.
structure. Is there anything, is there any downlighting underneath the marquee coming out of the sidewalk?
The marquee, we're showing some coffers that are uplit. So you will have some light that is coming down, but nothing is being spotlit down.
Okay, you have the two sconces, and then is there any lighting at all on the plaques?
There's a subtle glow just to set them apart from the limestone, but
And they're backlit?
backlit.
Okay. All right, thank you.
How does, I guess, either the plaza or the building kind of think about consistency with this, like aesthetic consistency with this relative to other entryways? Either in the building, like, it seems like Ten Rock Color is a very unique building relative to some of the other ones in the variety. of entrances there are and how it looks, but like, I guess, tell me more about what that process is like in terms of how you're coming up with this and trying to reference it with the other entrances and other parts of the plaza.
Me start that a bit. So, depending on the building, there are like 45 Rockefeller Plaza where Atlas is out front on Fifth Avenue. That building has probably 6 different entry points. I think they're all different. So each building, well, there's a real obviously sense of place there, and there's a continuity of materials and some detailing. Many of these buildings have very distinct sort of qualities, particularly how they hit the ground. So 10 Rock, as you noted, it has very different entry points, and some of the other buildings do too. So I think the idea here was to take what is a very simple, sort of understated entry, on the back, kind of the back of the center that faces this very commercial, I don't know if you know 48th Street, but it's a very south side of 48th Street. Looks just like Midtown, and it doesn't have much character to it. So the idea was to sort of take this sort of simple entry and turn it into something that isn't sort of competing with the other components of the building, but has its own personality. So in terms of then sort of where the team went from there, maybe that's the next chapter of the answer to your question.
Yeah, I mean, so starting off with just the storefront grid, that's something we see along that entire 48th Street. What we've designed is something that maybe reflects more of that hospitality brand than say the Nintendo store or the parking garage. So we're taking elements from that facade and kind of reworking them a bit so that they are still in keeping with the facade as a whole, but they more so closely reflect kind of the new space that's going in here as well.
And I would, with the marquee design, we really took it on from like, the Radio City marquee, which is much louder and brighter, but there is sort of that rounded edge, and there's like a thickness to the lines of it, and sort of the shaping of the marquee itself. We took a lot of cues from sort of that part of Rock Center, and we just continue to sort of refine this down so that it does become the sort of like glowing beacon for the people that are coming to the hotel, but it is supposed to be very sort of subdued, and like Matt said, it's sort of, this sort of storefront is very much in keeping with what's on either side, but it has that little bit of elevated hospitality feel to it.
And also just put a mention and said this in passing, the century is between a Nintendo store and a parking garage.
Yeah.
So there's a balance here. Obviously, it's sort of, you want to draw attention to yourself, but not too much. But to this point, it's sort of, you want to be welcoming and have it sort of be a signal to the guests who are coming, but to not be kind of overstated.
Okay. So, Wes,
I know we talked about like the undulating ceiling that it's gone away and this.
Could you just try, please? Just
Yes,
a little-
yes. Could you remind us of like what the interior lobby looks like and all the changes compared to the last design?
So the proposal for the hotel lobby?
Yeah.
Go to the next, so there's really actually very little change to the, if you go to the first sheet where we get the plan. So we're gonna just zoom in on this. So this is the main lobby off of the plaza. That stair that goes down to the concourse, the murals that are around this, no change there. This is the elevator lobby presently. So the entry to the hotel is going to be up through this passage. There'll be a sort of a small interior lobby space for the hotel. All that is sort of interior space, not designated. And that'll lead to the elevator lobby. So as part of this, one of the cars has been taken out. And so you pass through the elevator lobby into this smaller elevator lobby to access the upper floor. So this is really unchanged from the previous design. The circulation is very similar to the way it was 2 years ago. It's really just the detailing on the outside, the elimination of the artwork, the elimination of the up lighting, Tony, on the artwork and the down lighting, change the marquee, and really, some changes within that entry portal from what had been kind of an undulating ceiling to now just a simple barrel wall.
Got it, thank you.
Yes.
okay, comments from the public, either in person or online? Nope. Okay, business session. Comments, thoughts?
I just want to compliment you on the whole presentation. You guys did a terrific job, and we appreciate you bringing the samples. We're always curious, what are the samples next? So I just want to tell you, you did really good work. And it looks great. Thank you.
Agreed. Any other thoughts, comments? Suzanne?
I'm on this block all the time. I think will be a lovely addition.
Great.
Yeah, I
Sure.
think it's a very elegant design and solution. I like the way the proportions align with the Nintendo store across the street, I mean, adjacent, and how it frames the archway. I think the materials they selected are very appropriate and elegant in keeping with the Rockefeller Center layout. I think they're going the extra mile by even improving the bluestone paving and bringing it out onto the sidewalk. So for all those reasons, I'm in favor.
Sorry.
I agreed with what was mentioned earlier. A lot of the entrances throughout the center are very different. They're all, I think, very interesting and very cool for different reasons, and they're very just Rock Center. So I don't think having something that's different is necessarily an issue here. I do agree with Karen that I think the material choice is very appropriate. I'm interested to see the bronze and the black and steel together. I understand what they're trying to do. It's, I guess we're so used to seeing bronze everywhere throughout doors and whatnot. You know, there's a lot of lighting, and I think, you know, it would be kind of nice to see it toned down a little bit, but if it stays a warmer temperature, it seems to make sense. Much of the center is lit in general, but there is a lot of lighting. What I do love is there's not a ton of actual hotel signage. It's on the symbols on the marquee, and it's on the two plaques. I think that's a huge plus. Because like John was saying, should it turn over, that's all the more changes we're gonna see, or different colors or whatnot, potentially, if it does turn over. And we always ask this of the applicant, and they're always very good about it. Tishman, who owns this, they usually do, or I should say, these guys get them to agree to hold on to all the materials that are getting removed and use them, because they're constantly doing work throughout the center. So with all the limestone panels that are getting removed, I think that it's a super important component that should be written in the resolution, that that's encouraged to be maintained and stored until further needed.
Great, good point. Yeah, for my 2 cents, I think that initially when I first saw it, I was a little turned off just by the little bit more modern look of it. You know, if this were anywhere else in Midtown, looks great, no problem. But just the fact that it's part of Rockefeller Center, I expect a little bit more of an Art Deco, you know, throwback to history. But I agree with Tony. I think that, you know, there's so many different entrances to Rock Center. Coupled with your point that it's on 48th Street, which to your point doesn't feel like Rock Center down there. And it is, at the end of the day, you're trying to build a hotel. So you know, I'm getting over it because of those points. My 2 cents. Any other thoughts, comments? John?
Yeah, I think I had some more thoughts. Like this is a significant improvement than the 2023 design, I think, for sure. But shared some of those same things, but I think to the question that was asked, like if there isn't any consistency that's trying to be enforced, you know, throughout the plaza, then
yeah,
you know, this seems like it's a good fit. Something else that stood out to me that I thought was interesting, the lights, the side lighting looks very similar to what we approved at Pershing Square in the last meeting. So I think the Pershing Square ones are a little bit more like go around and not necessarily the sides flush with the wall. But I thought, you know, both buildings that are older, I mean, you know, not at the exact same time, but I think it is kind of an interesting like aesthetic similarity between the two buildings.
Good throwback. Last call. Anyone want the final shot? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, Fierstein,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Frizz,
Yes.
Harris.
Yeah.
Payback. Payback,
Yeah.
Yadovich,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Cal,
Yes.
Huckman,
Yes.
and with a yes, Johnson,
Yes.
Strazi,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
motion is approved.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you for, good to see you all again.
24 months-ish, 2 years.
The later number to you.
Right, exactly. Next up, we have 620
Hotel.
Avenue of the
Oh
Americas.
my God. Yep,
As you mentioned.
but the hotel types and there are so many hotels and but those it's crazy, huh? I mean, I need some housing.
I think we're 620. The 8th Street.
What, when they're back here?
Like when I was them swimming. Which one of the,
Yeah.
Client for this project.
It's their client, it's client.
Sorry, I just took us a minute to join Zoom. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm Julie Rosen from Higgins Place Barth and Partners and
Judy, could you like speak loud?
louder and
Yes.
slow. Okay,
Thank
yes.
And slow, and slow.
I know we're running out of time tonight, so
No,
try to
you got
keep
all the
this
time.
moving. I'm Julie Rosen from Higgins Place Barth and Partners. It's nice to see you all this evening. I'm joined by my colleague Drew, as well as Martha from SBLM. They are the project architects. On the Zoom, some of the names you're likely seeing. We have our clients from Burlington here as well. They'll be available to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. And we also have the team from Blair Sign, and they are the signage designer. So a number of team members here with us this evening, again, available to answer any questions you may have. And we're looking forward to presenting this project to you this evening. So on the screen, you can see 620 Avenue of the Americas. It's constructed in 1895. The Beaux-Arts department store building located in the Ladies Mile Historic District. I'm sure you all know it well. As you can see in the maps and the plot plan on the right side of the slide, it is located on the east side of 6th Avenue. It's a massive building between 18th and 19th Streets. It covers the full 6th Avenue frontage, and particularly on the 19th Street elevation where some of the Burlington frontages extend 160 feet down the block. So I'm mentioning this because it's a huge building. Burlington is taking over a huge amount of retail space on the ground floor of this building. We have a plan for you in just a bit. But it's a really big project for the company. At the time of its construction, the building was actually the largest department store built in New York. And I think the scale of it is still very much evident today, not only in the grand arched entrance off of 6th Avenue, but in the storefront articulation throughout the base of the building. I do want to mention that the lower floors of the building house multiple retailers. You can see in this slide, all the retailers have different types of signage. The idea here is that Burlington will be adding their own new layer to this. All right, great, perfect. So what we have on the screen here, so this is the main entrance to the retail spaces. So there's kind of a communal entry for all of the retailers. So Burlington's new store will be accessed from this location. The center doors where Bed Bath & Beyond was previously accessed and where their signage is, that will be a new signage location for Burlington. All of this signage, it's dimensional, non-illuminated signage installed at those sign bands above the doors. So the signage there will just be replaced in kind for Burlington. And then just as I was mentioning, the grand proportions of this building and of the storefronts, you can see the person under the TJ Maxx sign in very kind of small in relation to the overall scale of the building. These photos are showing the prior condition of the building when Bed Bath & Beyond was still in the space. As you can see, they had a significant amount of signage here. There was signage inside, outside, a lot of partitions installed within the windows, and it really limited visibility into the interior of the space. The upper floor tenants, of course, also had very prominent exterior signage on the building. And Burlington's proposal is really aiming to kind of open up this corner again, create a more visible storefront condition, which it has not been for a very long time. And then finally, this brings us up to our more recent conditions. Just to explain, and maybe I'll just point out here. So this northern space, which is the entire corner of 6th Avenue and 19th Street, extending all the way almost to the end of the building on 19th Street. Burlington is taking over that entire retail space. So again, it's a very large space. They're relocating from their current location up the block. You all know it. So this is going to be a new store, a really important location for the company. obviously a very prominent location. And so the signage proposal will take you through tonight. It's been designed with visibility and brand identification in mind, particularly on this busy thoroughfare. But the majority of the proposed signage is actually occurring inside the store. There's one single exterior sign we're proposing. Everything else is going to be interior. That's so quickly, just taking a step back in time. The building was historically a department store. It was constructed as part of the later phase of the Ladies Mile Historic District, a really big shopping thoroughfare, a lot of activity at the street level, and then the elevated also historically ran along 6th Avenue. So there was really a lot of hustle and bustle in the district. Go to the next slide. We see throughout the district historically that goods were displayed in the windows. There was a lot of signage, again, a lot of activity and selling of goods meant to attract people on the street and on the elevated. And the photos on the left side are actually 2 photos of 620 Avenue of Americas. So this proposal that Burlington has come up with very much relates back to this historic character of not only the district, but this building in particular. I also just want to point out the transom conditions historically were opaque. They changed over time, but there was never visibility through the transoms of these buildings historically. The clear glazing that is there now was done as part of new storefront work, and so that is not a historic condition that we have today. The right photo is another example from 14th Street, historically in the Ladies Mile Historic District. And again, the scope of work for Burlington we see fitting within this historic context of signage and the display of goods in show windows. Next. We also took a look at other recent LPC approvals for new retail spaces and other uses within ground floors of similar scaled buildings in the Ladies Mile Historic District. We've seen the commission approve a wide range of interior illuminated signage, digital display screens, again, for retailers, as well as other installations within show windows. So getting into the proposed scope of work, we have some overall elevations of the building. Again, this is a massive building. Burlington is taking over all of this area here on 6th Avenue, as well as this entire frontage along 19th Street. So it's quite a large square footage, a lot of windows looking into the space. And really the primary area of signage installation is going to be at the corner. That's the most important kind of area of visibility for people visiting the store. Next. So looking in plan, there are a number of different signage types. I'll speak high level to them in plan, and then I think the elevations will actually make this a little bit clearer. But really, I think what's helpful about this plan is it speaks to the flow of how the store is going to work. So as I mentioned, the main entrance to the store is actually going to be off of 6th Avenue. So there's going to be one new exterior non-illuminated sign installed on the exterior. This is the main entrance to the store. So, and then this is the rest of the store plan. So it's a lot of space, it's a lot of frontage, and then the bulk of the interior signage is going to be located along the corner here on 6th Avenue and then rounding the corner onto 19th Street. And then there's a single interior sign installation located kind of a ways down the block on 19th Street. So the interior signage includes light boxes, which are static displays of imagery with a little glow behind. There are going to be 2 display screens. So typical kind of LED screens that might display more moving images or static images. There's also going to be facelit signage installed at a soffit at the transom level. And then there will be localized installations of window film as well. Next. And I'm happy to come back to any of these slides if anyone has any questions. So looking at the elevations on the top, we have the, so on the top is the 19th Street frontage. So that's rounding the corner on 19th Street. And then the bottom view is the 6th Avenue elevation. So the new exterior sign is this location right here. Again, that's non-illuminated, dimensional. That's going to match the color attachment method height of the TJ Maxx and the Marshall signs that previously exist. So it will be very in keeping with the existing conditions. As we move over on 6th Avenue, the interior signage at the transoms, that is going to be facelit. That's set back a number of feet from the display window. So there's going to be a little breathing room in there. It's really important for Burlington to have that signage for the visibility through the transom. And then at the street level, there are going to be a mix of the interior light boxes and the display screens.
So these two are light boxes and this is an LED screen. All of the other signage that you're seeing here, all of this Marshall signage, the Marshall's TJ Maxx, that's all existing signage on the building main. Similarly, rounding the corner on 19th Street, similar installations of light boxes, display screens, and that face lit signage. So again, this is really all about wayfinding and visibility and brand identification for Burlington. The scale of the storefronts is very, very large. It's very important to Burlington to still maintain visibility through the display windows. And so as you're walking by the storefront, you'll be able to see through the screens and light boxes around them, above them, to really see a lot of the activity happening inside. Next. And then this is looking further down 19th Street. Again, we're, oh, I'm sorry, can I go back one slide? I'm very sorry. I neglected to mention, the proposal also includes the installation of red vinyl film along the transom windows turning onto 19th Street, again, to continue the brand identity that's happening along the transom line. On 19th Street further down, again, we're proposing one single light box. This is back at the east end of the storefront, actually in front of a new egress stair location. So it's kind of an out of the way, kind of boxed out vitrine in a sense as well. So really perfect for a display there. And then very localized grayscale film being installed at some service entrances. So looking more closely in plan, again, we're seeing the installations of the light boxes and the display screens. There's a lot of information here. I'm happy to come back to it. But I think high level, I just want to note everything is set back a minimum of 20 inches from the display window. I think it ranges between like 20 inches and about 3.5 feet. So there's going to be a lot of breathing room behind the display windows, everything set back, and nothing going, to the top of the display windows. There's going to be visibility above and around all of these installations. And then this interior soffit line that you see here in the dashed line, that's an interior construction that LPC has already approved. And the plan for the facelit signage is simply to install that onto that soffit. And then this is a plan again of that 19th Street section where we're proposing this new light box. We have a number of details. Again, we can go through in more detail. The top and the middle are about the window film. I think very simple, typical installations that you all have seen probably a number of times. Again, that film will be red. That's Burlington's color. The other facelit signage will be dimensional, but again, installed on that soffit. And then we can see the section detail here, this full height display window, the interior soffit with the facelit signage installed. And then the light boxes or LED screens below. Again, the scale of these storefronts is huge. I think it's about 25 feet tall. Very, very large. And so the signage has been scaled accordingly. Next. And then some other details. We have a lot of installation details. And like I mentioned, we have the signage designers on the Zoom as well, if there are any questions about how all of this will be fabricated and installed. Next. And then some colorized elevations to help visualize the proposal. So again, Burlington space really from this line north and then around the corner on 19th Street. Again, the commission is reviewing the interior illuminated signage, the light boxes, the LED displays, and the window film. And the exterior signage on 6th Avenue, and then the 19th Street proposal. So I ran through that pretty quickly, but happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great. Thank you very much. Questions? Go.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the LED screens and if, they're gonna be on 24/7, how frequently the visuals are gonna change on them?
Sure, yes. So we have the Burlington team on. I think Tim.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Tim Swernick, Manager of Graphic Planning and Design with Burlington, and thank you all very much for listening to our proposal. The LED screens will be on, they will be turned on with the light boxes 15 minutes before we open, and they'll be turned off 15 minutes after we close, and 6 days a week we'll be opening at 8:30, so they'll be turning on at 8:15 a.m. And then they'll be going until 10:45 at night, which is 15 minutes after we close. And they will have a mix of static and animated imagery, and everything will be updated, whether it's static or animated. That'll be updated seasonally as well.
Questions?
Is the brightness level of those screens going to change between like night and day, or is it gonna be pretty consistent throughout the while it's on?
That is something that I will have to confirm. The screens, yes, they can be quite bright, but as if they will dim with the evening, that makes sense, and we can confirm that. But I would imagine we can make we can take that into account with the screens as we program them to dim as the evening goes on.
Is there any sound to any of these devices?
No, they'll be visuals only.
Do you, have you had any feedback from any residential buildings or the community that surrounds this building with respect to the animation and the lighting that's gonna go on until after 9 PM?
No,
Into the other buildings that are surrounding it that may be residential?
no, and these screens are consistent with what LPC has been approving in the historic district as well, so otherwise we can't speak to their community concerns, but we've not heard anything.
Okay.
I'm not understanding the red film versus the burgundy colored
Oh,
film.
sure, yes,
Is that
thank you.
applied to the back of the glass as a
Sure, so the kind of
vinyl?
darker film, so that will also be red, but I'm sorry, not film, the darker red color, this is the interior soffit. So that soffit that's set back 3.5 feet, that will be painted red, so we're just showing it differentiated from the window film that will actually be applied to directly to the
Okay,
glazing.
so they're the same color. One is 3 foot back, one is applied to the back of the glass.
That's correct.
And
yes.
that's part of Landmark's purview?
It is.
Okay. The bottom of that red line, is there a mullion there? It's hard
There
to say,
is.
because this is the first time we're seeing this rendering. It wasn't in the deck.
Right,
It's
right, we
aligning
only have the
with,
black and white elevations.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, so the film and the soffit both align with that transom bar, so there's going to be alignment that's consistent with the storefront articulation. That was very intentional.
I thought of,
Yeah, good.
does the accumulative signage, not only for Burlington, but with all of the other adjacent store signage on the building, comply with zoning?
So I can't speak to the other existing signage, but yes, any of the signage that we're proposing. So-
Yeah, I mean, do you have an architect on the part of the,
Yes, Martha from SBLM is here.
okay, because I'm not challenging it, but it seems like even if the zoning is the signage accumulative, even if it's not your client, it's like a cumulative of the whole entire building surface area. So I just wondered if you went through those zoning calculations and this meets that.
We also have Blair sign, Tom or Scott, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can.
Because it's a little hard to say whether all of that red
Mhm.
counts as a sign and whether that 3 foot back counts as a sign. Like there's so many ways to, so
Sure.
that's why I
Yeah,
want to
that's a good
understand
question, yeah.
what are all the pieces and parts, because it seems like a lot of signage on a building, and I know you're just one piece of it, but you're contributing to the overall landmark.
Right, right, and this building has had a lot of signage on it for the last 30+ years. All of that second floor signage was approved by LPC in 1995. So really since then, there's always been quite a lot of signage, not only at the second floor, but also at the ground floor,
Yeah.
interior, exterior.
Doesn't make it necessarily.
I mean, you're setting a, yes,
But
you're
okay,
setting a
I'll
new
do my
level of
homework.
precedence here, right? Which is a bit overwhelming for a landmark, right?
Just going back to the film, the film that's on the outside of the window. Was there ever any thought to doing a similar soffit like that we see closer to the corner all the way back?
Yeah, so there is actually an interior soffit that continues the entire length. I think because there was not going to be signage there, the intent was not just have kind of an empty space at that portion of the facade, so that's why the film was proposed there.
Yeah, another one. When Bed Bath was there, and I know you showed it, and I think I see it, there was another entrance on that side street on 19th Street. It looks like you have a small sign going back that way. Is that going to be used by visitors to the store or no? That's,
The only entrance is actually through that center entry on Sixth Avenue. All of the other doors are there simply for egress. So they're code required. That other door, yeah, that Drew just pointed out, on Sixth Avenue, that's an egress door. So that's not going to be an entrance door.
so the signage you have back mid-block,
Mhm.
it's not for folks coming in and out that way. It's strictly because there's a space available.
It's identification, and if there's a service access or anyone needing to go kind of back of house, it identifies it. I'm sorry, do you mean the interior signage or the signage on the doors?
Light box that's not.
Yeah, the light box is where
Oh,
the bigger.
Passers by, yes, so they're not main entrance doors, but again, because there's a new egress stair that's being constructed behind. So instead of just seeing a blank white wall, it's an opportunity to just add additional sign.
Okay, and just one more, just to clarify, because I think I know the answer from dealing with this building before, but this building does not have a master plan, correct?
It does not have a signage master plan. So it has a storefront master plan, which you probably saw back in 2019. So yes, so there's a signage master plan for the entire base of the building. Signage was not in that.
Sure.
So there are no changes to the storefront?
No changes to the
Because
storefront.
maybe this is for comments, but it seems like a missed opportunity that there's a master plan for the storefront, yet they're not following it. And if they had, then the sign ban would be consistent. You'd see a consistent ban, a datum that wraps Sixth Avenue and the 19th Street. And because they're not electing to change the storefront, we have these giant signs now up in the clear story. It's just not consistent.
Other questions?
I just wanted to ask, the red vinyl film, is it translucent at all? Is there any passage of light or is it solid?
It's solid.
Solid.
I guess my question is on the light boxes. I'm so I understand that there's been signage on this building since forever, but I worry that the light boxes are kind of kicking it up a notch. Was there any alternative considered at any point, either vinyl coating or something a little less more subtle?
No, this was really the intent from the beginning, was to have the light boxes. This is something that Burlington uses throughout their stores. It does allow for changing out imagery more easily. I think maybe something to note, you may have picked up on this, our draft originally did show additional light boxes at these 3 windows, and those had actually been removed from the scope. So 3 light boxes from the project, but otherwise the intent is to have them primarily in the corner.
And we are using the light boxes here traditionally, because Burlington has to have fixtures around the entire perimeter of our store and able to make the store make enough money to, just be. But so what we did here, because the storefront is so beautiful and we wanted to be able to keep the glazing as opposed to putting a window display wall, we have the light boxes up against fixtures, taking up the same footprint. So from the inside, you see fixtures, from the exterior, you see light boxes, so that you don't see the back of a fixture, but we use them so that we could not build a wall there and keep the space open, and so that you could have visibility into the space because it is so lovely.
A few questions. What's in the space currently?
It's vacant.
It's vacant.
It's been vacant since Bed Bath and Beyond, bankrupt, so this is, it's a big.
How many square feet is
building.
that, the space?
I'm sorry?
How many square feet is the space?
Oh, can the Burlington team answer that? Or Martha, I don't know if you would have the square footage.
How many square feet is the total store?
Yes, Michael Reedy on this call. Would you be able to answer that question? If you bear with me.
I'm sorry, I think it's about 40,000 square feet with all the floors combined. 40?
40,000.
And how long is the lease for?
Michael, can you respond to that? How long the lease is?
I'll have to confirm and get back to you on that. It's about 10 or 15 years.
You had mentioned something and I may have heard it incorrectly, so just so that I'm clearer. So with regards to the animated and digital signs and wow and everything, I think he's just said that it was necessary to have all of this illumination and these digital signs. Clarify this for me, because of the size of the storefront. For economic reasons, you feel like this amount of signage and the type of signage that you've chosen for this historic structure is necessary for the economic success of this business. Is that what you're saying to us? I think you just said something like that, but you brushed over that. I just wanted to clarify that. In my
Sorry.
opinion, I say I feel like it is a lot of signage, but I just want to hear your perspective on that because this is your business and I'd like to learn more about what you mean by that. We
So
want
we,
to see you succeed.
sorry, so we have to run fixtures around the entire perimeter of the store. So we use the light boxes to hide the back of the fixture. So from the interior, it has the same footprint as from the exterior, so that we are allowed to get additional fixtures in that space, so that we're not missing out on all the merchandisable area there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, you guys were addressing this, what's allowed for the square footage per city code. And we're allowed 5 square feet per linear foot of frontage with 500 square foot of signs per elevation, which we're well under that. And regarding the window vinyl, we're allowed to use up to 25% of the window. And I think we're at 20%, just to clarify.
Thank you.
Just to add, the Bed Bath space that's being vacated.
We're whispering again.
The Bed Bath space that's vacant was about 90,000 square feet. I believe they're taking at least 80,000.
Is it 80 or is it 40?
Is it 40? It's just that, you know, it's.
There's
It's not the
another
full-
tenant that's going into
Oh, okay.
the south
All right,
space.
well,
So it's 40.
that's
Right, it's the northern half of their space.
Yeah, 60.
But the space has been vacant for a number of years now.
We'll move on to comments from the public.
Yeah.
Anyone in the room or online?
What are you asking?
Comments
Public comment.
from the public. Yeah.
We have one person online who's trying to speak.
Alright. Nelly, if you're able to unmute yourself.
Nelly on mute.
Nelly, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nelly, I'll try to promote you to panelist and see if you are able to speak that time. Alright, Nelly, you are now a panelist. Feel free to unmute yourself. If you would like to make a comment.
Okay. So we lost Nelly. Business session, comments, thoughts?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't catch when he clarified the zoning. Could you please ask him to repeat that? There was 20%, something in the past
I
and
forget who was
5
speaking,
square
was that
feet.
Scott?
I just didn't catch
Yes,
that.
sorry, this is Scott Bilbrey with Blair Sign Programs. The way the code reads is that we're allowed 5 square feet per linear foot of frontage, a maximum of 500 square foot of signage. And in regards to the window graphics, we're allowed to cover 25% of the window and we're only covering 20%. And in the sign, the wall signs, the permanent signs, I don't have the exact number right in front of me, but I believe we're right with everybody's square footage. We were like on Avenue of America, we were at 320, and on the side elevation 19th, we were at 142, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Business session, comments, thoughts? John?
I think this is I think it's a big improvement from where Bed Bath Beyond had it, like the entire 19th Street side of Bed Bath Beyond was unopened, like on the inside of the store was all just floor to ceiling merchandise and stuff, so even having some openness, I think helps open up the street. I used to work across the street from this building, and so I would look down into it every day for like 3 years, and I think just having more openness, I think is a lot more interesting. The red is a lot more noticeable, but in general, there's a lot less visible signage. And I think Bed Bath & Beyond had, which I think is nice. The one concern I have, which if we can maybe put this into the resolution, is just about the brightness levels at night. If there are that many TV screens, there isn't a lot else on that corner around that's going on. So it's not like there's a lot of other light that it's going to be trying to view. Like it's going to be kind of the only thing going on out there. And so, you know, having some consideration for that. There isn't a lot of residential on those immediate corners that it's necessarily affecting, but even just for passerby, whoever's off the street, having that super agreed.
Yeah, I'll just add on while referring a previous meeting, while it's not the aesthetic improvement that maybe 636 6th Avenue was, which is the hotel workers health center. You know, it's still in line with Ladies Mile with shopping and a vacancy filled, and yeah, it's not, certainly not the worst offender, and not in line with the rest of what's already there, so we're okay with it.
Just want to add to John's comments. I mean, I think we're sitting too close to each other. I think we're airdropping. He's probably took my thoughts right. But I also want to say that a 15-year lease in a 140-year-old building, where they're taking a substantial amount of square footage, it's pricey. It's a significant risk. And we should also look at that as well, because anything that's coming to improve the economy of the city is better than having an empty store. And because of that, I'm gonna be looking to vote in favor. Like back to the airdrop, you know, 6th Avenue is busy. And if there's a way to, maybe it's not a place now, but at a later point, before it's out.
Hello.
To have the lights dim a little bit, you know, so it doesn't, so it's not intrusive or disrupt traffic on 6th Avenue. Oh, this is great.
Okay, I'm gonna go back in time. Nellie, are you there? Is that who we heard?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, you've got 2 minutes to make a comment.
Thank you very much. I am a neighbor on 19th Street between 5th and 6th, right in front of the Bed Bath & Beyond buildings since 1975. We have been having a lot of construction lately, terribly noisy. I would like to know what are the consequences of having all of those light boxes shining into our apartments. I work and live here. Can you please let me know that?
Thank you very much for your comment, Nellie. Okay, we'll move back into business session. Any comments on John?
So, correct me if I missed it. I don't remember hearing specific references in the Ladies Mile regarding light boxes, LED screens. I know that on other landmarks, LPC has approved them, but specifically this corridor and Ladies Mile, I can't think of any. Most of the big storefronts running up and down 6th Avenue have static signage, whether it's like a film or they have their their logo or their logo or name pushed back inside the glass. I think the LED screen, they actually did reference something on, I think it was Fifth Avenue. This will be a big change for this section of Ladies Mile. I think I mean, the building is intense with signage already. That's why I was hoping that the owners might be here, but it's just the applicant themselves for that space, to redo something, because that's how people know this building. It's the building with all the signage, and it's a lot. I think the LED screens is probably something that's going to, I think, be pretty distracting from the historic district. I agree that we want tenants here. Signage is normal. This is a shopping district, and there's lots of it, and there's going to be lots of it. Burlington's got that bright red. It's pretty noticeable in general. I just think the lighting boxes are probably a little too much for this stretch of this particular part of Ladies Mile. I'd love to see them removed.
Any other thoughts on that? White boxes?
I wanted to say two things. One is that, we're landmarks. And so, and this is a beautiful landmark building, and I know you guys honor that. We don't make decisions on real estate. So while we applaud the use of this space and you guys going in, and we hope you every year is more successful than the next for this building and for the area and for the city, we don't make our decisions based on real estate. We make them on the fact that this is a landmark, and how are we honoring this landmark, how you're honoring it, and how we're honoring what goes on in Ladies Mile. What precedent has been set, what's allowed, and what will happen with this type of signage that you're suggesting put in for your business reasons, which you've explained and we appreciate. And I do like your installation in terms of creating the space around it, and we know you're trying to drive people in there. I think that it is excessive. I am concerned as a person who actually lives in the Midtown area. The city is just grappling with this new technology, it moving forward. It's disruptive. After certain hours for residents, whether it's a small residential community or a large residential community, it has to be taken into consideration. It just has to. We all are living on top of one another, and so the illumination is concerning, and the precedence that is set by the amount of this type of signage is greatly concerning to me. Although, believe me, I want to see you guys succeed, I really do. So I'm finding this challenging, but I find this excessive.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you for that, Suzanne. Eugene, I was gonna comment on that, but Nellie reappeared and cut me off. I'm sympathetic to the lease conversation. In my very first landmarks meeting years ago, my very first comment at my very first landmarks meeting was, how is this gonna impact business? And the chair at that time quickly gave me the speech that I'll now give you. That effectively, what Suzanne said, our job here is determine appropriateness. And if it can all be boiled down into one word, it's that word. Is what they're suggesting appropriate for the area? Obviously, that's enormously subjective, but that's what we're tasked to do. Does it represent the area? Does it, other buildings in the area? Does it represent what the building's been dealing with recently? The historical context of how the neighborhood has changed. You know, is it appropriate for what it's going on? So, I respect the comment, but yeah.
Again, I'm just saying, like 40,000 square feet, and there's the pool of potential tenants is low. However, I will say that everybody in this room commented on the displays, these LED displays. I don't think anybody is making a big issue about the red, purple, but the boxes are, and anybody who has the concern, how do we dim them down?
Yeah.
And if there is gonna be a resolution, then the resolution should have to state something about either having them dimmed, or maybe like, as Tony says, have them completely removed.
Yeah. I mean, I have a concern as well. I shared Tony's thoughts just to kind of show my hand. You know, in the winter months, it gets dark at 5 o'clock or
Right.
sooner, and you know, that's several hours of bright red light that's gonna be sent onto the sidewalk. And, you know, I get that this building is very commercial and there's lots of signage and it has been for decades. But it feels like this is taking it up a notch. Anyway,
So,
Karen.
Yeah, on the topic of the light boxes, I just want to echo what Tony and Suzanne said. You know, the avenue, Sixth Avenue is very different than the side streets. And they're taking 14 light boxes and they're wrapping not only the corner of the building, but they're marching it all the way down to the middle of the block, all the way down 19th Street. And I think that the side streets do have a very residential and character, and we should keep that in the Ladies Mile. We know the avenue is commercial, so I would advocate, and we're not the designers, but that it certainly can be reduced from 14 down to something maybe that just wraps the corner, like half as much, maybe to 5 or 7. I think I might be able to get around that, but yeah, I object to the light boxes, and I'm glad to hear that it complies with zoning, because that was a concern. But my second piece is just the disorganization of all of the signage. It's just,
Yeah.
it's too loud, it's too bright, it's too much, just
Right.
cohesive.
I'll just add that I wish their previous location was also in the Ladies Mile.
Can't hear you.
Their previous location at 22nd Street and Sixth Avenue is also in the Ladies Mile. I don't recall them having LED lights there. And so I will just add that I don't think, I think whoever's going to shop at Burlington is gonna shop there because of the prices, you know, and the perception of value, not because an LED box drove foot traffic. So I'm totally okay with, you know, echoing either removal of the light boxes, reducing the light boxes, or reducing, you know, how bright they are after certain hours.
Okay.
and
Here's a
maybe
question.
just to what Karen is saying, maybe to just eliminate them completely from the side streets where it is more residential.
Well, let's put the light boxes aside for a second. Is anyone have a problem with anything besides the light boxes?
Are we doing comments yet?
Yeah, this is comments.
This is
Right
comments?
now.
Comments,
Yeah,
yeah.
everyone's making
But
comments.
if it's not about the light boxes, can it still be a comment to answer your question?
No, he wants that.
Comment things other than the light boxes, actually.
Good.
What?
Okay, so a couple of things. Historically, like Julie has said, this building, when it moved up to its current location, as Siegel Cooper, the largest department store in New York from, I think, Boston or Chicago, or wherever they moved from, it only lasted about 20 years, and then they folded because Altman's and all of those Lord & Taylor's moved uptown to 34th Street and Fifth Avenue. And then it became fallow for years and years and years. You'd go down Sixth Avenue, and all of those Ladies Mile buildings were empty. There were no Burlington Coat Factory and Container Store and Bed Bath & Beyond and Martin, none of that. Well, they were all new in the last 30 years, and they came in, and that's great. People used to meet. Remember how today, oh, I'll meet you at the clock. Everybody knows you go into Grand Central Terminal, right in the middle there, there's that Aubrey clock, you meet there. Well, you used to meet at Siegel Cooper at the fountain. There used to be a fountain right at the front when you went in, and there's Bed Bath and there's Marshall's, a big fountain. People would meet at the fountain. Great history to this building, to this area. However, I just want to put in, the other day, I was looking for an item of clothing for a gift for somebody, and I walked into the Burlington Coat Factory store across the street. I gotta tell you, the word schlock isn't in my dictionary, and I probably never heard that word before. But people from, if this store is not a 100% improvement from what's across the street that's withering and dying, and it's gonna be a crime against one of the most magnificent buildings in all of New York City to put a schlock house like that in there. So I'm praying and I'm hoping that the designers of the interior of this place will be better than what's currently there. And I think that's about my whole comment.
Thank you, Martin. Let's comment some more.
I don't know if this is realistic, but I'm guessing, sort of the aesthetics, the design language that's being introduced here is probably not unique to this location. If it's possible to see an example of other locations that maybe invoke what they're trying to do here, just to understand what that might look like. That could be valuable, because I feel like I'm using my imagination a lot. Maybe we all are. So if there are examples of this treatment elsewhere, that would be, I think, very helpful.
Yeah. Well, where I was gonna go, if it didn't sound like anyone had any major problems other than the light boxes, we could do a deny and last around the light boxes. And either we eliminate them altogether or at least remove them from 19th Street. Thoughts on that?
I'm okay with that.
I kind of like don't like the idea that there's not a lot of light boxes and LEDs on Sixth Avenue, and this might be precedent setting, but at the same time, I think I would be supportive if we like remove the light boxes off of 19th Street and have restricted hours and brightness for the remaining ones to be responsive to some of the other things.
How do people feel about that?
I'm good. Yeah, well, no, I was just going on Google Street View and there are no LED screens on Sixth Ave between 14th and 23rd Street in any storefronts. So this would be, I think to the point, it would be new. And whether we want to set that versus, and even, Burlington has static signage at both Union Square and their current second, street.
Okay. Well, what do we make it simple? Just.
I was gonna say, I'd rather not set a precedent, because I don't think it's gonna impact economic development or whatever.
See which way the wind's blowing here. Motion for deny unless removal of the white boxes.
Second.
Okay.
All right,
Roll.
I'm gonna go backwards this time. Testa,
Yes.
Pedrazi,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
I am a yes. Tuckman,
No.
No. Patel,
Yes.
Pagan,
No.
and Miatovich.
Yes.
Kback,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Briz,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Burstein.
So just to remember, its motion is to deny unless,
It's rather than, it's kind of a more amenable form rather than a straight out denial. Whereas if they were to actually remove the light box from the plan and remove it with some sign that's not lit up,
would that
then our,
the same result?
then our approval would automatically kick in.
Is it the same as approval without the boxes?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm in favor of approval without the boxes.
So you're
Or yes.
Yes to the motion.
All right, motion passes 11-0-0.
And this maybe, do we have clarification on like the light boxes versus LED screens?
I did, there were some questions around the brightness of the boxes and so forth. I don't know if there was specifics.
Because in my opinion, like a static light box is very different than a moving LED screen. Like if it's just a lit up, something that's lit from behind.
Are you saying for purposes of resolution, we should
Yeah.
clarify it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't you just say you did a street?
There's no LED screens, but it's hard to see,
Right.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not sure this is procedurally appropriate, but thank you for indulging me. I do want to explain why I voted against this resolution, which has passed. I would have voted to approve the application as is. I don't particularly care for the LEDs, for the light boxes. However, I think that when we consider the question of what is appropriate here, I think we should bear in mind the context and history of the site, which includes the use of this space for advertising. Obviously, technology changes, enables things that didn't exist before. I think we should also be mindful of the fact that there are a number of similar displays on Fifth Avenue, which is not all that different from Sixth Avenue. I walk by Fifth Avenue all the time. There's the old Club Monaco space. I don't know what that is now. There's one across the street. There's a number of them. And it's all fine. It's completely fine. As far as light goes, as has been pointed out, I live very close to this building, by the way.
Didn't we vote already on
Excuse
this?
me.
We did.
I asked.
He hasn't spoken all meeting.
I asked him. The reason I'm commenting about this, I know the vote is already taken, is, I believe that we should, especially on the margin, particularly thinking about the consequences of, what it means for this building to be occupied and the importance of the commercial viability of the space. I think we should take a different approach to applications like this.
Thank you. Yeah, no, the appropriateness, as we were talking about earlier, obviously is a subjective term, and we all kind of have to kind of come to grips with that and answer it as best we can. But the motion passes. Thank you very much. Definitely appreciate it. Next and final applicant is 1 Union Square West. Thank you for your patience.
Maybe you should take Julie off the, committee.
I'm actually gonna nail it down.
No more, I think everyone's online. No, this is raising their hands.
Oh, you got it. All right. Yes. All right, hi again. I guess for the record, Julie Rosen from Higgins Place Barth and Partners. I'm going to be giving this presentation with Gabby Brito from Walter B. Melvin Architects. Gabby has designed all of the signage scope for this proposal. And jumping right in, 1 Union Square West, historically known as the Lincoln Building. It's a Romanesque revival office building constructed in 1889 and designed by R.H. Robertson. So you can see in the map, it's located at the northwest corner of Union Square West and 14th Street. The building is an individual landmark, but the building's history is very much tied to the overall development of the Union Square area and the historic Ladies Mile District, which historically extended beyond what we now know as the Ladies Mile Historic District, that is a designated landmark district, but historically Ladies Mile extended all the way to Union Square. And so this building's development is very much tied to that larger district. And I'm mentioning that up front because some of the cues that we've taken from other LPC approvals does extend to that larger district. Great, so the building is 9 floors. The upper floors 2 through 9 are all used as office space. The ground floor and the basement are retail space. The main building entrance is located on Union Square West here, surrounded by this lovely restored entrance portal. The main corner retail space, it's one single space. It's going to remain one single space. It's actually accessed through the center bay on Union Square West. It extends around the corner, and then there's a second basement entrance in this bay here on 14th Street. The basement space is currently tenanted. The ground floor space is currently vacant. It has been for quite some time now. And our scope of work before you today is actually the establishment of a signage master plan. So no impact to the storefront infill itself. That was already changed out a number of decades ago to be more restorative in nature. But there is no signage master plan in place for the building. Signage has always been quite challenging on this building, as you'll see as we take you through some historic photographs. So our proposal considers what an incoming tenant might need interior, exterior signage in order to make this space viable. And it's been designed with an eye towards not only the building itself and kind of the unique configurations of the storefront infill, but also in the context of what we've seen LPC approve at other individual landmarks and within the Ladies Mile Historic District previously. So taking a closer look at the 1 Union Square West elevation, again, main building entrance, this was just restored as part of a larger facade repair and restoration scope that was undertaken, the full window replacement job that was undertaken. So most of the building has now been addressed and lovingly restored, and getting a tenant into the ground floor is really the new focus and the most important next step. And again, designing a signage master plan here that will make sense for an incoming tenant is really our goal. So we have 2 projecting storefront bays on the Union Square West facade. And then again, the main retail entrance is tucked in here. This is a recessed entrance So you have the double doors, kind of a thin glazed transom band, and then a larger transom above. I think one of the biggest challenges with this space is that the retail entrance is very recessive. It's actually hard to find your way into the space. So our proposal includes some more prominent signage, particularly at this entrance, to create, again, more of a draw wayfinding identification for a future tenant, while still allowing the historic entrance portal to remain the most significant aspect of the facade. Next. And then on 14th Street, we have a couple of different signage infill types. We have a single projecting bit here at the corner, and then more of this typical rectilinear infill along the rest of the 14th Street elevation. Cast iron lintels, very simple storefront framing. Again, all this infill is non-historic, so any attachments that you see that we would be making into the storefront infill, we're not impacting any historic fabric. And really overall, if you want to go to the next sheet, the goal here, so this is a rendered view of the proposal. So you can see we're proposing a new marquee, just a 1 foot projection beyond the facade here with signage on the face for a new tenant, as well as the installation of a flag on a new flagpole installed at the second floor above that entrance, again, to create this very clear identification of where you actually enter that space, but it's, again, still being very much recessive to that historic building entry, and then proposing other signage either located at the transom bars within the infill or at the sign band. So that is the exterior signage scope, and then on the interior, there are a range of options as well for illuminated signage set back from the glazing, decal signage, and then a couple of display screens as well. I also want to mention that there is an option to also add some blade or banner signs. So the idea is that we've really drawn mostly from the types of signage that LPC staff can actually approve, and we are meeting those parameters very closely for most of the signage. And really, this is being reviewed at the commission level because of the number of types of signage that we are proposing, and because of the installation of the marquee and the flagpole, the exterior signage, transom. But this has all been designed with, again, the historic building in mind, thinking about proportions, attachment methods are all very considered, and Gabby will take you through those details later in the presentation. We're also minimizing attachment points to historic fabric, installing new anchors and mortar joints wherever possible. So again, we're really limiting the impact to the historic fabric, but making sure that we're incorporating enough different types of signage and signage locations for a future tenant. So another thing that we've been considering is the context that this building's in. I'm sure you all know 14th Street very well, particularly at this corner. There are a lot of other retailers around this building, a lot of large retailers that have very busy, large signage. This is a kind of a challenging environment for the building to fit into. And so again, we're trying to find a balance here of kind of meeting, and if you want to go to the next slide, meeting the context and what a potential tenant would expect from the space, while again, keeping the individual landmark in mind and wanting to do something appropriate to the building. We took a look at the historic changes over time at the building. Historically, the building did have some very visible signage. The historic retail entrance was always in this bay. We see signage at the sign band, signage in the transoms, a couple of different signage types that we're utilizing in our current proposal. And then certainly historically along 14th Street was a very active, vibrant retail street with a lot of different signage types as well. And as we move through time, what you see is the storefront infill changed, and also the amount and type of signage continued to grow and grow on the building. I think as tenants tried to find the best place to actually put signage here, because it's always been very challenging. So again, through time, a lot of different signage types, a lot of panel signage, projecting signs, and a variety of signage types. So we see this as kind of part of the building's DNA and something that we're embracing as part of the new signage proposal. By the time we get into the 1940s through the 1980s, when the building was designated, the entire ground floor was actually completely overclad. So you lost any sense of the historic infill. Signage became very, very large and completely obscured the building. So if you go to the next slide, the building now is in a much closer condition to its historic condition, but again, signage has never really been kind of comprehensively considered here. Prior tenants at the ground floor installed most of their signage inside, and the visibility was just really lacking. So we wanted to make sure that we provide for, again, enough flexibility, interior and exterior here. So looking through some context for prior LPC approvals, again, we've kind of used some of these prior approvals as a guide for what might be appropriate at 1 Union Square West. At individual landmarks, LPC has approved the installation of dimensional signage on raceways, both at the building facade and at transom bars, 841 Broadway on the left, very close to 1 Union Square West, and then 1 Wall Street downtown, another individual landmark, where again, this installation type and signage type has been seen as appropriate to individual landmarks. Next. The commission has also approved the installation of new flagpoles at individual landmarks at 2nd floors to support retail use at the ground floor. And then similarly, the presence of canopies and other projecting features at buildings in the Ladies Mile Historic District were present historically, and it's also an installation type that the commission has found appropriate for retail use in these buildings. As I mentioned, the construction of 1 Union Square West is very much tied to the development of the larger Ladies Mile Historic District. So we also were taking a look at what was being approved, particularly on 5th Avenue. It's similar building types and scales. We've seen LPC approve a range of signage, including illuminated signage on the exterior buildings. Again, the installation of flagpoles, the installation of interior illuminated signage for storefronts, and also tenant-driven fonts and colors being utilized. And that's also something that we have integrated into our proposal to again provide a sufficient amount of flexibility for it. So getting into the design proposal, as I mentioned, there are 2 separate retail spaces that are included in this master plan. The main retail space, which we're calling retail space 1, is the ground floor, and that's what's accessed from Union Square West. This additional door is just an egress door, so that's not going to be a main entrance door. This is the main entrance, and again, our proposal really does consider that and wanting to make sure that that's visible. The basement retail space is located in this bay on 14th Street, and that leads to the basement. That is kind of, but we are including that bay in this master. So looking at the elevations, because this is a master plan, we are showing a possible way that a tenant could install signage. But what you are going to see in these elevations, we have 3 elevations, is the maximum amount of signage that could be installed. That includes the various signage types that are possible under the master plan. So this sheet is just showing the exterior signage that's possible. So again, in this proposal, it includes installing a new marquee. It's a very minimal projection, but it's enough to create a little bit more presence with signage, halo lit installed on the face, and then a new flagpole above. And then the installation of externally illuminated signage at the transom bars, and then an option to also install signage on a sign band or on a panel, signage on a raceway or on a panel in the sign band, which is a typical historic placement for signage and actually one that staff can approve. We're also including the installation option of a blade sign or a banner at entrance locations to help identify the different retailers and then also provide some of that very important projecting signage. Next. This is just showing the interior signage options. So all of these signage options, suspended illuminated signage, interior neon signage, the digital displays, all of those would be set back. The interior signage that's suspended at the transoms would be set back 12 inches from the glazing. The digital display screens would be set back 18 inches, and the parameters for those would meet staff level rules. I do want to clarify, because this came up with the last application, that LPC staff can actually improve digital displays. They regulate them as part of their interior partition rules. So it is something that actually staff can approve. They do approve kind of one-off installations, and a lot of these applications are coming before you and coming before the commission because of the cumulative amount of them or the size of them is actually exceeding what staff can approve. But the type of sign is something that staff can approve. We're also providing some example areas where decal signage could be installed on the windows. Again, very typical signage type that we see throughout the district. And then the following elevation, thank you, actually shows the combined exterior and interior. So this is actually what you were seeing in the rendering. So we are providing for, a couple of different signage types within each window. The scale of these storefronts is actually quite large. We can flip back to some photos at the beginning of the deck if anyone's interested. But I think when you see the pedestrian scale in relation to the storefronts, there's a lot of glazing here. We're going to maintain a lot of visibility, but particularly on this corner in this area, having this amount of signage is very important. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Gabby to take you through the details.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gabriela Brito. I'm a senior project manager with Walter B. Melvin Architects. Thank you very much for your time. I know it's late and I'm really honored to be here presenting today. So we have been working at the building since 2020, like starting with the lobby restoration, like at the main entrance. And then we are just finishing with the some storefront repairs and restoration as well. And we finished with the entire facade street, and we're also working on the corridor. So we know the building very well, and we were trying to all these proposed signs to be respectful of the architecture of the building. So hopefully you will agree with that. So for the so I would go with the most kind of prominent signage proposed, exterior to the less impactful ones, interior ones. Many of the items were already mentioned by Judy, but I'm happy to answer any questions at the end if I'm not addressing them. So for the marquee, we are proposing that a tenant can install a minimal projection. This would be at the main entrance of the main store, the Union Square side. It will be projecting 3 feet maximum from the glazing, and this will be only 1 feet from the street facade, actually, because this is a recessed entrance. We're putting as a parameter that the prospective tenant should match the marquee color with the storefront. It would be a black or a dark metal finish. And all the dimensional letters which are embedded in the sign, those color and finish will be per tenant. Next. For the flagpole, we are proposing an angled 45-degree flagpole. The finish of the armature will be matching the surrounding limestone at the second floor. So we're proposing either aluminum finish or a light color finish to match that masonry. It will be anchored to a limestone sill that we have on the second floor, and then the braces will be anchored to the limestone jambs, and we are putting as parameter that it will be only anchored at the joints. Again, the flag itself, it would be color per tenant. These are the dimensional letters raceway. At the sign band, it could be either a raceway or it could be over a flat panel. The color of the raceway that would support the dimensional letters again will be matching the limestone. So these whole spandrel are new limestone that we just replaced. So we don't want them also to impact that. So we are specifying that they should be anchored at vertical joint locations. The size is all matching per OPC rules, so the dimensional letters should be 18 inches maximum in height. And for the length of the signage, we are specifying that they should match the width of the storefront. Next. Then there's a possibility that they can do these dimensional letters on the transom bar. So we are proposing it's difficult to see here, but hopefully you will see it closely in your screens. But we're proposing a flat bent plate that will be anchored either at the steel transom bar, or it will be anchored. So there's one bay which is stand number 2, which is actually a wood storefront framing and is shorter. So that one we're proposing that it will be anchored at the jambs, at the limestone jambs. Also at joint locations. The bracket signs will be only 2 of them, located at those stores entrances, main entrances. We're proposing 36 inches maximum height, and we are projecting only 1 foot from the list. sorry, from the street facade. Again, color and finish per tenant, but the armature of the bracket itself, we wanted to match to the storefront surround, so it would be black or dark metal finish. These are the interior signs, so these will be the digital display screens. We are letting tenant number 1 have 2 screens, one at Union Square side and one at 14th Street, but with the parameter that they cannot be adjacent. So at the corner, they cannot have both corners with the digital screen. It would be set back 18 inches per LBC rules. It would be 75% of the width of the glazing and 50% of the area of the display window. It cannot be located on the transom window. These are the interior illuminated pendant signs. This will be, so we're proposing 12 inches behind the glazing, and this will be located only at the transom, transoms. And finally, the decal signs can be located either at the lower display window or at the transom window, but not two decal types on the same bay. So it would be either or. These are 20% of the area of the glazing, also following policy rules. This is just for reference that we went through each of the types of signage. We are giving a parameter like for everything we mentioned, color, finish, etc. This is also attached to the deck for you.
Yeah, and then just to wrap up, so again, what we're showing here are all the different signage types that Gabby just took you through. This is kind of the zoom in to the base of 1 Union Square West. Again, really trying to find a nice balance between exterior and interior signage, and then creating more of a soft illuminated glow for that exterior signage with that external illumination. And then if you go to the next slide, we have a wider view showing the adjacent context, especially in relation to adjacent retailers that are not landmarked. Again, trying to find a balance here of what's appropriate to the individual landmark, but also that fits into the surrounding context in this particular location. So we're happy to answer any questions you want.
Great, thank you very much. For the benefit of the new members, this might be our first signage master plan we've seen in a little while. Just so you know, we're obviously not voting on a particular retail business to go in here, but more we're voting on a theme, like an overall system to be a permanent theme for this space. And the benefit is that it ensures consistency over long periods of time, and any future applications, you know, it just speeds up the process. They can go through staff for most of LBC's requirements. They don't have to come back to us again. Kind of like this is our chance to sort of review the signage, no matter, you know, forever and ever. Yes. So that's what we're looking at here. That's why it doesn't say Burlington or whatever brand that might go in there one day.
Just to enumerate on what you're just saying now.
Yeah.
About a master plan for signage. I've been a member of this committee for 7 years, and I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what it is myself. So once established for a building, a master plan, then from now on, any sign that goes on that building for signage, master plan for signage, and it has to be a certain font, certain size, a certain color, a certain location, a certain lighting. Is that what we're establishing? And any establishment that moves in to that location and wants to change the A to a B sign has to abide by the rules that we are setting down as a master plan. Is that what we're talking about now?
Yeah, that last slide she showed with all the details.
Yeah, I'll just clarify. Yeah, so this is basically creating a roadmap for future tenants. So if a future tenant comes in and they could make sure that their signage complies with this master plan, they could elect to install some.
So Sephora comes in and they have their own logo. And it's black and white, and this is green and purple. They can't do black and white.
So they absolutely can. So that was one of the parameters that Gabby was going through. So we are only setting the color and the finish and the material for the kind of the supports for the signage. The armature for the bracket sign, the raceway, but the actual signage itself, the letters, will be per tenant. So a tenant can use their own font, they can use their own color, they can basically apply their brand to the building through that.
So the master plan, then, if it's not the font and the size and the color and location, is the what? What am I missing here?
The location,
Uh,
the
it-
letters, the size of the letters.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, right, Karen.
Signage that are possible, where they can be located and then the dimensions.
So
And
we are setting that.
yes, and the maximum
So,
dimensions.
so someone comes in with their specific sign.
Yeah.
Can't do,
Yeah. Well,
saying they can do it, but
Michael,
I'm saying they can't.
think of it like this, they have their own logo.
Yeah.
They can do that, but the size of the logo has to adjust to match
I see.
what they've said.
But not-
It has
And if
to
it
be
doesn't
hung with
comply
the
with the
materials.
master plan, then staff can approve that. So what happens?
So
is
if it's
we're-
different, then staff can approve it. It's just-
If it's different than staff can approve it, then it would come back here before you for an individual sign off. But what we're establishing tonight is a master plan that would establish again that baseline possibility. for Signage, again, with the expectation that a tenant could come in and utilize this. Again, if it's different, you would see them again.
Good question. Questions about the actual plan itself? Something?
Is there a limit to how many of these options a retail tenant can use? Because there's a lot.
Yes, it is all very, and we can flash to that grid. Yes, everything is very considered. So the master plan includes the total number of the different types of signs, where they can go. So for instance, the signage at the raceway for the corner store, they can have a maximum of 2 on 14. Right, so it's very, very set. Again, this necessarily needs to include some flexibility. So like the specific locations can change potentially, but the maximum number is set.
So that's within each type of signage, but what about having multiple types? Can they have 5 different kinds of signage if they want? So they can, okay.
But we have included some specifications that they cannot use, like, for example, they cannot use an interior illuminated sign if they're also using the dimensional letters at the transom bar. So we have included also that, so when there are like in the same glazing area, they cannot do that. Or to avoid kind of congestion.
Right, and similarly, oops, per tenant, if a tenant has signage at the transom bar, they can't also have signage in the sign bin, right? So it's an either or situation. I think there's a lot more flexibility with the types of interior signage types and locations than with the exterior. The exterior is a little.
If I could, has there ever been a flagpole at that location?
Not at that specific
This is
location.
a
on this
brand new
building.
application for a
This is
new
a brand new
flagpole.
location, yeah. The location and the installation type is consistent with buildings in this district.
So within your criteria for you can use this, but you can't use those. I believe LPC, and correct me if I'm wrong, has a rule. If you use a flagpole, you cannot have a blade sign, and
Correct.
vice versa.
And that is, we are also incorporating
So you have all that.
yes, so if a tenant uses the flag, they cannot also have a blade sign at the entrance, they could only use the blade sign if they don't have the flagpole or the parking lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, good questions, thank you. This is always the complication with master plans, there's so many options, so questions are great.
Sure.
My question is about the marquee. Can you explain, is it shown in the rendering and are people able to put the marquee? Is it only on Union Square West in the center? Is that the only
So it's
place? that-
shown right here, only at Union Square West, only at the retail end.
Okay, and that's an option. That's one of
It's an
their
option,
options.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Oh, can you zoom in?
And then
I don't know why.
we had a couple different sign types.
There we
and
go.
One of them was
There you go.
neon.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you don't mean traditional neon and it's an LED neon?
It would be up to the tenant, but staff rules allow for the installation of interior neon signs.
Interior?
And it would be only 15% of the glazing area.
Neon is just, it's not a sustainable material. We really don't like to use it any longer because of the emissions and the energy output and the toxic mercury, so I just wanna educate everybody on that. I think that's it for now.
Can you talk a little bit about the size again and how the display screens are going to be used? What are the options for a tenant with those screens? And what is allowed or disallowed in the combination of those display screens? If you know what I mean.
So I'm gonna start and let me know if this answers your question. So Landmarks doesn't regulate the content of the screens, and we are not providing any parameters for what the content of the screens would be. That would be per tenant. We are providing parameters for the possible maximum number of screen locations and the size of the screens and the setback of the screens from the display windows.
So for example, it could be an advertisement running, it could be,
It would be per, content would be per tenant, yes.
okay,
Yes, similar to all of the other signage.
right, with no sound, just visual.
Visual.
And what is disallowed if you have an advertisement running 24/7? Like what's the, if you were saying, well, if you have this, but you can't have this, and you have this, you can't have that, so you get a display screen. What else do you get, or what don't you get? Because it's so much going on.
So if you get a display screen, you will not be able to have a decal sign at that location as well.
Can you show me what that you mean by that? Decal sign, go.
We didn't renderize a decal.
It's signage applied to the glazing.
Yeah,
So there wouldn't be competing,
right, so this
Signage
box
at that
area
way.
should be like, which is 20% of the glazing area, so these have been like a vinyl applied to the glazing.
A
So
vinyl.
They cannot have that with the screen.
there's only a
Which would be
maximum.
like above it or below it or something?
Any
Yeah.
signage would be in the transom if there's additional signage.
Okay,
Right, but the maximum number of the digital screens is limited to 2, is that
Two
right?
for
For
tenant
the-
number one, but cannot be adjacent to each other. So for the corner, if you can go back to the. So we did
I
put
see.
one here, but they cannot carry.
okay.
And part of why we're including it in this proposal is because we are seeing a lot of retailers interested in these screens, and it was very important to include that as an option in the master plan. And again, it is a signage type that staff can approve. So we're meeting the parameters that are outlined in the staff rules for those types of screens. So, thank you.
Last question? Go. Yeah. Oh, John, yeah.
Just for my own clarification, when we talk about digital signs, does that include signs with a lot of animation? You know, you could have a person jumping up and down, or
Right.
blinking lights.
Sure, so the digital LED screens, yeah, so they could include static or moving. And again, that's consistent with staff, they don't regulate content.
That can go 24 hours a day.
Technically, and the commission has been approving that in the latest Island Historic District. But again, it would be per tenant, and that's not something that we are regulating as part of this master plan.
It's not regulated by the hours of the operation of the building,
It would not.
like, okay.
Okay, we have public comments first. I don't think there are, but. No public comment. Okay, so, business session, comments, John.
This is more kind of like a process procedural question.
Yeah.
What is our relationship and what the resolutions that we put out relative to the Landmarks Commission?
Could you take your hands away from your mouth when you put?
Yeah, sorry, my question was, what is our relationship and the resolutions that we put together relative to the city landmarks?
So we act as a representative body for the community in the district, and we speak on their behalf. So my rule of thumb, forgive me if you've heard this speech before, but the president of the UN said one time, we don't have any actual authority, but we have a voice, and it's our job to make our voice as loud as possible. But that's what we're doing here. So we have a voice, even though we don't actually have LPC authority. It's our job to make it as loud as possible. So, sorry, tangent. Comments on?
Yeah, can I recommend that if you've never been down to one of these LPC meetings, you check it out and go. They'll tell you what time that something that we voted on is gonna happen. And you go down there, it's amazing. You can listen. And the Community Board 5, voted so-and-so on this issue, and they actually listen to what we had to say. Then they do what they want, but they actually take into account, and they'll tell you, it's kind of feels good when you go and you listen to that. I would recommend you try it.
It's a great call, Michael. Every Tuesday morning, LPC has their meetings, their agendas online. It's broadcast live on YouTube. If someone were to be able to go live and represent CV5, that would be fantastic. Please let me know before you go do that, but that would be great. You know, obviously they were reviewing landmark petitions from around 5 boroughs, so there's tons of stuff going through there. It's not just ours. But if you do have one of our applicants go through there, it's very enlightening to hear them talk about it. Suzanne?
I was just gonna say, and this speaks to a larger thing that's going on right now, as we all know, or may not know, with respect to just the importance of city council. You know, all of our community boards, do they matter? What do they do? And so we try to represent buildings that have been landmarked, the neighborhoods, the districts, you know, and without that type of voice, whether or not they listen to it or not, I think that they do listen to it. If that all goes away, then there is no voice that says, you know what, I'm not comfortable with that, or et cetera. And as a community board, we feel better that we look at this through this lens, representing community. So that's why it's important.
100%. I mean, yeah, the whole point of landmarks is history. I mean, the whole reason we're here is we're advocating on behalf of the history for the city and our district. Anyway, I'll stop there because it's late. Sorry.
Hi, I'm the owner actually.
Oh.
So I agree with everybody, everything that you've said, because we have embodied exactly all these standards, with respect to this building. We've engaged Higgins Space Bar, Walter B. Melvin, to restore the building lovingly, and have done a fabulous job. So yeah, haven't been to Union Square West, and we're hoping to get a tenant. So that's why we're here before you, to make it easier, and to get your approval for all these different types of signs, because we hope that it will make it easier to rent to a tenant, as opposed to the tenant actually coming before you and saying, oh, am I gonna get the approval? So we've spent like years restoring the front. We did a fabulous job on the lobby. We replaced the whole entire entrance to the did all the facade. Gabby's been on the building, so it's basically her building. And so Cass and Julie. So we're really excited, and we hope that this will enable a new tenant to come in and not be afraid. Everybody's kind of afraid of landlords. And it has been vacant for.
They're very scary.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming.
No.
I'm surprised how rare it is for a building owner.
No, I figured I would just, I had to say something. I've been sitting here for a couple of hours. And no, so we're really at the point of, hoping that all this restoration now we will manifest a tenant, and maybe you can help us do that.
That was a powerful comment. That said, comments, Tony?
So I've seen a lot of master plans come through here. This one is by far the most comprehensive as far as options for a new tenant coming in, being able to pick a little of this and a little of that. I've never seen one that has so many options. But that's not the point. It sounds like they have what I would call safeties in place, right? So that we don't see all of those options being used at once. I think that would be a real shame for the landmark itself, for the building itself. It would detract considerably. So it comes down to our comfort level of the owner and this particular plan having in place things that allow for flexibility of a tenant being able to rent a space, making a tenant feel comfortable, getting the word out that we're here, but also making sure that it's not Times Square as far as signage goes. So it sounds like they have those safeties in place. I hope they stick to it and they maintain it. That's kind of our hope with these things, is we don't ever know for sure, but we're relying on them.
Further comments? I hear,
I have a comment.
yes.
I think I got this right, but the digital display is very similar to what we just saw in the previous application, so I think we need to discuss how we would apply what we just, declined or denied unless on the previous application and not address it in this application. So they're proposing if all the retailers were to select up to 3 and, the sizes. They didn't give the size, but they give it, graphically. So would we be okay with the 3 digital displays, or are we going to say deny unless? Like we did the previous?
Sorry.
So yeah, I think to that point, overall, I agree with what's been said, that it's a very thoughtful plan, related to display. I know the check and balance is kind of like the decal in front of it, but it does feel like that's something no one would ever do anyway, so I'm not sure if that's like that robust of a consideration. Personally, since there's like, I think more digital signage in this area compared to Sixth Avenue, I think I would be more open-minded to supporting it. That said, I think this is a good opportunity for us to introduce the idea of limiting hours and brightness to accommodate the broader character of the neighborhood. So I'd be supportive of having the signage if we were able to incorporate some kind of limits on just turning it off earlier than like sunset or something like that.
An interesting suggestion. Suzanne?
And the number of them, right? I mean, I think that we, think the other plan did not have a master plan, so they were open to, utilizing the space. They have a lot of space, and so they were working off of a non-master plan, right? And so I think that we denied that because of the excess of it, and that it wasn't necessarily contingent to perhaps their success. If they had come in and maybe it was a little less signage, or maybe it was three digital, there was some ways around to, for them to look at this, and again, we want them to succeed. So perhaps it's the number of them, how it's hard for us to determine that. Every street is different, every historic district is different, and every historic building is different. And we are not wanting to make it scary for retailers. We want them to go into the building, but our job is to try to honor the neighborhood in these buildings. So on balance, I would imagine that we would have to try to maybe understand, or at least put some type of a parameter around how many digital signs go in. If they're allowed, then, what isn't allowed. I think it's the quantity of them and the size of them. The fact that this is gonna go on with, maybe all night, where there's no parameters required for these retailers to turn them off, is another issue. Because we are dealing with a historic neighborhood. And so the whole issue of land use and how it bothers residents and so forth, it's just a large subject that is now bleeding out into many, many areas outside of Times Square where it is problematic. But here we are. It's the technology. That was the point that you were trying to make. Here we are. Here's the technology. So how do we deal with it so that we can respect the buildings in the area? And maybe that's the quantity of them. Maybe it's the size of them. I don't have the answer. I just know when it's too much.
Yeah. Robert?
Nothing right now.
John?
I think on that note, like a better approach for this, or more holistic approach, which I don't know if we'll be able tonight, would be something about like, how much is it adding to the net light pollution on the street level? And in this case, it's on the corner of Union Square, which already has a lot of light. Across the street is a Popeyes that has very bright, very blue lighting almost all night. And so, relative to the situation we heard talked about earlier, the proposal we talked about earlier, I think like the LED screens or light screens on this would not be as impactful as it would be in the other situation, both in terms of quantity from what's proposed in the master plan of having, I think, 2 screens to like the total. But I do think having one that's on, not having it open much extended beyond whatever the business hours of that store are, taking some consideration into like what's the light level on the street and having it be typical brightness at, day or night or relative to the inside of the store, I think would make sense. I think that's only my kind of only point of discussion. So I think the rest of the plan looks really good and is very well thought out.
Yeah.
Kevin, I forgot, is this an individual landmark or a historic district?
Individual landmark. To the point that was made at the beginning, it's not technically in Ladies Mile, but it did. The original Ladies Mile went down like one.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we could limit some of this stuff, I don't know. We could limit some of this stuff. I'm also willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, just given there is a master plan. Tony spoke about the safeties. The one example was, I don't think you can have back-to-back lights at the corner,
Right.
for example. So given that that thought has been put forth, you know, and in this case, there isn't a tenant in place, and the other one, Burlington signed the lease. Here, they're trying to get a tenant, so also from an economic perspective, I'm also willing to support the application.
Yeah.
So just for rationale, just like LPC treats applications differently, even though they may have the same content, we should as well. LPC does treat historic districts differently than individual landmarks. They look at location as well, like Suzanne said, if this were in Times Square. I mean, we've had applications for landmarks in Times Square with signage that would be, you know, crazy anywhere else, but it works. So they do weigh things differently, and that's how we should do it as well. There's, this is an individual landmark. There's two more further up the block, and then the Darrell Roth Theater across the way. And that's really it. It's a very different part of New York City. But I would be all for, like Zona said, and a couple others as well, having maybe restrictions on timelines. That may be helpful.
I mean, I can't see which way the wind's blowing. I mean, there is a way to write the resolution where we approve this, but we put stronger than usual language within the resolution suggesting that LPC take all this into consideration. The length, the timing, the strength of the lights. You know, I agree with Tony and Suzanne. The building, you know, just the fact that you're applying for a master plan in the first place, it's just goodwill and your heart's in the right place. So I'm willing to take a little bit of a leap of faith here. That's just my own 2 cents. That seems to be where the table is at. What do people think about that? Approval, but with stronger than usual language within the resolution.
I was gonna comment. Yeah, basically, what Suzanne just airdropped my brain, or vice versa. It sounds like there are guardrails. It's not like, you know, they're operating willy-nilly. Rather than go down that denial-less route, or that might be excessive, I feel like this feels like a better direction where we can just reinforce the points that we want to make. Because to your point, it does feel like the applicant is operating in good faith. We should, you know, commend them for that and not punish them ideally, but say, however, we would like to see these things. I feel like that feels acceptable to me.
John, let's go.
Yeah, keep in mind, I'm supporting this, but there are actually 2 sets of guardrails. It's the plan, but then you also have LPC staff in place too. I'm presuming that they're rational and they won't approve anything that's, you know, inappropriate for the landlord. So, in that sense, I'm comfortable with it because of, you've got that second protection.
Okay. Well, like to make a motion?
Like to make a motion to approve with certain additions to reinforce our.
Second.
Alright,
Zona?
we're gonna go again, Testa,
Yes.
Pedrazi,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
yes, Tucker,
Yes.
Patel.
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Yaga,
Yes.
Hiccup,
Who's gonna write this up?
ChatGPT.
Who's gonna write this up? I just wanna hear what it's gonna say. Before I say yes or no.
So Zona and I will, we will add all the details, but if you would like to be, would you like to see the cut before it goes in?
I trust you.
Okay.
I vote yes.
Okay.
Harris.
Yes.
But I'd love to see it. Can you send it to me?
Yes. Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Gershman.
Yes.
Motion passes 13-0.
Great, thank you guys so much.
Okay, good work, team. This is the final item on the agenda tonight. I promise we'll try and make this as quick as possible. So I don't know if everyone got a chance to, but one of the most important jobs that all community boards have is every year we do a district needs statement, which all community boards send this long document. Ours last year, which Zona sent around roughly 60 pages long, just says, these are all the areas that we think the city needs to focus on with the city budget in our area. So within our individual committees, we have to identify what within our purview of the committee do we want to focus on, or tell the broader board there's a budget committee led by Kev. We think landmarks, we're voting for these 3 things. They're going to consider them. They may or may not include them. So we're not going to vote on anything. But if we just want to have a general consensus of 2, 3, 4, 5 items we want to suggest to them, let me know. Last year, increased funding for Landmark Preservation Commission. Kind of a no-brainer. I mean, staff, IT. But then beyond that, accelerate, getting rid of the scaffolding quicker, accelerate sidewalk shed approvals, however we want to word that. And then lastly, it's kind of amorphous, but streetscape improvements around landmarked buildings or districts. So better lighting, better sidewalks, better, railings, fancier street lamps, you name it. Those were the kind of the 3 main ones that really dealt with landmarks. There's more in this list. If you look at my email, I ChatGPT pulled out of the document all of the things that are kind of landmark related. But the question we have to answer, is there anything else we want to ask for, or those sort of we want to put in what we put in last year?
I think like one theme that we've kind of heard is, especially if you're like a smaller landlord, you may not always have the economic resources to maintain your landlord building to the extent that we all would want to. So if there's like a way for us to ask for a program to subsidize like landlords that are smaller to help their maintenance.
Oh, for landlords to help their landmark building?
Yeah. It's like very like ambitious.
It's a good one. Yeah, no, I mean, small business, that's. I mean, we like small businesses, we like landmarks. So it's funded. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. No, please. I would just want to say, just because you said that's ambitious, I mean, I think all these things are important, but I would not call that any more ambitious, because I think in the grand scheme of district needs,
right,
some of these asks may be considered ambitious
For
in
sure.
terms of a priority. So I think it's all good.
Yeah, this is a shoot at the moon document.
Yeah.
Like, you might as well ask, because we're not gonna get all these anyway, so.
I was gonna say along those lines, the New York Landmarks Conservancy has matching. Not matching, they have funds available to landlords to do these kinds of restorations. Now. They're a preservation group, and they're kind of like, the village preservation, and then HGC, they kind of butt heads with LPC every now and then. But it would seem easy enough to say, are there any city funds that might be allocated to maybe match what the Conservancy is able to give a small landlord? Which of course would cut down on each party's full share of that. I mean, there's a system already in place. Maybe that would be a good route to go if they would cooperate with doesn't have to be with the Conservancy, but there's already something out there available.
This might actually be related, because I was thinking of something slightly differently, but the general idea was to provide support to help smaller, in particular, property owners just navigate all of this, because as you're explaining this, I'm like, wow, I wonder how many property owners would even be aware or know what their options are. So even if it was, this is not necessarily shooting at the moon per se, but like just even providing support to help property owners navigate the complexity so that they can, really just see things through in the best possible way to achieve the best possible outcome.
Most property owners do not want to be landmarked.
Yeah.
That's the worst possible outcome, because it just, it limits them. It's
Yeah.
something more expensive and you have to come present to us every time you want to get a new retail tenant. But yeah, to the extent that
I guess help.
make it easier.
Yeah, any support that they can be provided to just allow them to have an easier time navigating this and maybe make it less scary for them. In theory, I don't know if that's.
I wonder what the support would be though, because we're asking for funding, like could but Tony was saying maybe it could be grants. I don't know that much about that world, but are you saying someone on staff level, like if they had enough staff that can offer pro bono?
Potentially, yeah, because for example, I'm imagining scenarios where as a smaller property owner, you might not know, not just how the rules work, but what options are available to you, how to navigate the system, things like that. I don't know what kind of support is offered to folks like that.
Yeah.
Well, we have had cases where we've seen some individual owners where they have not retained an architect. No less a preservation consultant like Higgins and Quaysports. I mean, they are the premier and most expensive, and so for sure, that's a luxury that they wouldn't have. But we've had some individual owners come, especially when they have violations and they illegally, I don't know, put an air conditioner in or like not even knowing that they were necessarily egregiously violating. And yeah, we do feel for them, but how could we help them with city? What are we asking for? I think we have to think about what we're asking.
Agreed, that's it.
I mean, I think the easiest way would be to ask just for more staff on LPC to be available to field questions. Sure. Write
Yeah,
application.
I mean, we're already doing that, but maybe we can articulate
Yeah,
that we want to
it's
help
definitely
small
cool.
business owners with the goal in mind of helping or supporting small business owners.
Yeah, like you're looking for a Sherpa to navigate this Byzantine process.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, I know it's late, we're all probably a little off with the break right now.
Can we email you?
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I
This
think
isn't
that
going in
we're like
tomorrow.
dead, but yeah,
Think about it for a
because I have
few
some
days.
thoughts, but I'll, yeah.
If you have ideas or thoughts, email
That
us
would-
and, yeah, I mean, this might, whatever we come up with as a committee is gonna be sent to the budget committee, and then they're gonna pick their thing, and then CB5 is gonna vote on the full consolidated document. And for the new people, that's gonna be a big, long, full board meeting, because people are gonna.
Is the LPC, I've never seen any of them ever come to these meetings.
You never seen who?
They never come to these meetings.
No, they don't come to.
For the budget
No, just LPC, just,
to our?
Yeah.
meeting?
yeah, never seen them.
We don't care.
Then-
No, it's just not their,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's not their role.
For us, they can watch the.
Yeah,
Right, they do care, I should not have said that.
Actually, that's, has any, but I encourage everyone to go to an LPC hearing, because that's where we really.
Yeah, Tuesday mornings, it's an interesting.
And actually, they're online now, so you can watch them on YouTube.
Fun to.
I'm sure.
Great way.
Yeah, I mentioned to you guys, but the budget committee's meeting on October 30th.
October 30th.
Oh,
All right, if you could send it.
Ask everybody to bring their upfront, please.
thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Collecting signs. You wanna pass your sign down? Oh, that was.